all introduce yourself, guests.
Okay.
Introduce yourself, Ishmael Brown.
Yeah, I'm Ishmael Brown, the host on HNIC of the podcast Angry Black Rant.
I'm Xanatrix. I have a small YouTube channel, about 70 subscribers, where I rant about random stuff. Not really got a regular upload schedule.
Awesome. So, guests, you already know all our guests, and I am Aman from the 50 Shades of Liberty, and we're going to talk about different issues today. So, what would you like to start with, guys?
Whatever you want to do, I'll just roll with it.
Yeah, I'm basically the same. I'm just here to roll with the punches, so to speak.
All right. So, maybe let's start with Black Lives Matter. What do you think of the concept?
I think it's a beautiful concept. It's a concept of revolution. It's a concept of voiceless people who just say, please stop killing us. Please stop killing unarmed black people. Please stop killing black people, and we just want our voice heard. So Black Lives Matter is definitely something that I love. I mean, it's definitely something that's needed within the American community. So yeah, I'm pro Black Lives Matter.
When it comes to the concept, the idea behind Black Lives Matter, I can get on board. You know, unarmed people, regardless of race, but especially in this case, the per capita disparity of unarmed black people being murdered by the police or shot by the police in line of duty, however you want to see it. I can get behind that. The problem I have therein is that that's as far as the rhetoric goes. They're swinging to an extreme, especially when there are justified cases of officer-involved shootings and officer-involved suspect killings. And especially with the most recent example of the Milwaukee riots, we have body cam footage that shows that.
Have you seen that footage? I'm just curious. Okay.
We have been shown that this man was raising something that looked like a weapon at an officer, and the officer shot him because of it.
Okay.
That is a justified.
And you feel Black Lives Matter has been a part of that riot, or no? Or do you mean black people need to stay in their place?
I feel that what has happened is these people are using...
These people? Who are these people?
The rioters.
Okay.
This is not me segregating anybody. The rioters are using...
So then we're no longer talking about Black Lives Matter. You're talking about the rioters, right? So let's just get it clear.
I mean,
you're talking about the rioters and not Black Lives Matter.
The rioters are purporting to be a part of Black Lives. Yes, they are. The rioters had Black Lives Matter T-shirts on.
They are not Black Lives Matter. I could get a fucking Occupy Wall Street fucking T-shirt. Are you guys? Yeah. No one has never done that except for Black Lives Matter. I could get an Occupy Wall Street and go punch somebody in the fucking teeth. Nobody said, "Oh, Occupy Wall Street, start punching people in the teeth."
You're one individual.
Black Lives Matter has 3 leaders, and they are not there. This guy who had a gun, who was a criminal, no one is supporting him except for people in his town, and they're just upset because they have lived in a town that has been traumatized by the police. Yeah, the guy who they killed is definitely justified, but I mean, as far as I know, but there's no Black Lives Matter in that town. That's just a bunch of people in that town who feel friggin' like neutered. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. It just has to do with black people who are just like lashing out, maybe wrongly, because the guy who they're lashing out for had a gun. I do not see any Black Lives Matter people supporting this guy. I honestly don't see that.
One of the leaders of Black Lives Matter, while not specifically supporting this man, what was the talk show? She said...
Jerry Springer.
No, it was not Jerry Springer.
Maury Povich.
No, it was not these sensationalist shows. This was she was having a
Ricky
sort of
Lake.
a sort of
No?
interview
Ricky Lake?
with another woman, and the woman asked her, "Well, what do you feel about the people who are rioting?" And she to summarize and to paraphrase, she said that she felt rioting was, while not exactly the most peaceful of tools, was still a justified tool, and
Rioting is always a justified tool. I'll
No,
tell
it
you
is
that right
not.
now.
No, it is
Of
not.
course it is.
No,
of course
it is
You
not.
come from this place of privilege and you don't want rioting. People should write. Listen, I'll tell you this right now. I'm not a part of Black Lives Matter. I am not a part of anything. But I'll tell you this. If I feel neutered, if I feel attacked by the police, burn the motherfucking town down. Fuck stopping
You are
traffic. Fuck
No,
stopping traffic. Fuck stopping trying to get to the airport. I am telling you right now, I am okay with people burning the entire town down. We have 12-year-old boys like Tamir Rice being murdered. Fuck you and fuck anybody who's inconvenienced by fucking traffic.
No, so you're
Burn
saying
the fucking town down until you guys wake the fuck up and listen to us. So I am honestly the last person you need on this podcast, because I'm a nigga that is like, no, burn the fucking shit down.
Okay,
I'm talking about real revolution. I'm not talking about revolution
you're talking about exactly violence to get your way. You're talking about being an authoritarian fucking
No, I'm not
dictator.
talking about violence.
No,
What
that
kind of
rioting
violence
is
are you
fucking
talking about?
violence.
What
Rioting is fucking
violence?
setting things on fire, infrastructure on fire, pulling
not
people out of
hurting
cars and beating the
People
shit
are
out of them.
dying.
just
Children
because
are
they are
dying.
white?
I don't give a
No,
fuck.
no, that's
about
fucking
you
violence
in your
outright.
comfort. I don't care.
I don't
I'm
care that
talking
you
about-
don't care.
Okay.
You are showing exactly that you are not civilized.
You
But
are
you
not. The country isn't civilized. A 12-year-old boy was motherfucking murdered for playing with a gun, a toy gun, in an open carry state. That's not civilized. How do you not see that? A 12-year-old boy in an open carry state is murdered. That is enough to shut down society in general. A 12-year-old fucking boy is dead in an open carry state. That's it. Like, once that happens, we need to reevaluate what the fuck's going on. I understand you feel comfortable. You and your white boy ways and everything. There's a little black boy murdered who has a fucking toy gun in an open carry fucking state. He's dead. Do you understand that? He is dead. And there was just a story recently, a little 10-year-old boy. The cops were chasing a fucking dreadlocked black man who did a robbery. This 10-year-old boy was chasing a fucking ball, and they pulled guns out on him. Imagine if he was playing cops and robbers, motherfucker. If he was playing cops and robbers, he's dead. And what the fuck you gonna say then? What are you gonna say then? He's a 10-year-old boy. This dude is traumatized. He's 10-year-old, and he was just chasing a basketball. If he was playing cops and robbers like so many of the fucking white boys in this country, he'd be dead. So what the fuck are you talking about?
You want to know
Let's
what?
be real.
Let's just put it this way: as I said, per capita, unarmed black people are killed by the cops.
Per capita, fuck you. Like, what are you talking about? You sound so comfortable right now. You sound so comfortable.
Okay, fine.
There are young black boys being murdered.
You want to go with fucking raw numbers here? Raw numbers, more white people
I
get
don't
shot
give
by
a
the police
fuck
than
about
black
what
people.
you're saying.
Fuck off.
There were young black men being murdered, not even men, children. And you're trying to tell me we're acting the wrong way? I understand you feel real comfortable.
I'm trying to tell you violence only begets more violence, motherfucker. Violence only begets more violence. You're only going to cause more people to get fucking shot.
Young black boys to be murdered and just keep it moving.
Is my mic
young black boys can be murdered and just keep it moving. There are young black boys being shot in the fucking head, being murdered, and then here you come, and then here you come from your place of privilege, and you want to tell black people how to act.
Place of privilege,
we do not give a fuck about where you come from. You are here, and you all of a sudden want to tell black people how to act, as if you were even acknowledging the black people in everything we have to go through. Nigga, fuck, like, nobody cares about what you think, and I understand.
Nobody cares about what you fucking think either.
Okay,
Jesus
then don't
Christ.
ask about. Listen, this is the thing. Don't ask about Black Lives Matters. Don't ask about nothing. If you don't care what we think, eat a dick and go to work. Eat a dick and go to work, because nobody cares about you. We are talking about Tamir Rice. We are talking about black people dying, and then you come in and give your fucking feedback, and then when we say eat a dick, and then you tell us we don't care. Motherfucker, no one said, hey, no one looked at you and said, hey, we're curious, the black community. What do you think about it, random white man? Tell us, please. No, nobody asked you that. So you can say you don't care. I know you don't care. I know you don't care. I know society doesn't care. I know no one doesn't care. So you saying that is saying nothing new. Nobody gives a fuck about you. Okay? Of course.
You are one racist motherfucker.
Nothing that I said was racist. But if you want to tell me what I said was racist, go ahead. Go ahead and tell me what I said was racist, and I will refute it. Go ahead.
You're going to refute the fact that you separate the opinions of black and you're going to refute the fact that you separate the opinions of people based on skin as not being racist. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I didn't separate the opinions based on anything. I was talking about you specifically. You as a person who was dismissing the opinions of African Americans. I did not say you as a white man. I did not see. This is what's funny. You try to say I'm racist. I did not bring up your race at all. I don't even know if you're white.
You straight up just said.
Is Amon online?
Amon is online. Amon is online. But you just straight up said that the black community didn't come up to me and say, we want to know your opinion.
I did not bring up your race. I said the black community didn't. Okay. So you are literally saying black people who are being murdered by the police should not acknowledge that the people who are dismissing their plight are white people. You are literally saying it is racist for privileged white people. Who are you? Who the fuck? Wait, first of all,
they're not dismissing
you are
the
just
plight.
This like privileged person from your little perch, and you just feel like black people should care what you think. I honestly think you and listen, I am prevalent. Listen, it's so funny that people like you swear black people should care what you think because that's all you have.
No,
you don't have women who care what you think. You don't have white men who care what you think. You sit there and you're like, oh, black people should care what I think. This is a thing that
every human on the face of the planet.
Nobody gives a fuck. You will be forgotten after this conversation,
motherfucker.
So,
I don't even know what you said. Say it again before, motherfucker, even though that sounds so pussy.
I said that I don't think any fucking human on the face of the planet should use violence to get their fucking way.
What are you talking about violence?
I already told you. Rioting is fucking violence. Rioting
is not violence, you mouth breather. Shut the fuck up. Rioting isn't violence. It's so funny. People like you think you know what violence is. Rioting is violence. Do you want to know what violence is? Look in your history and see what the fuck violence is. You want to see what
behavior physical force intended to hurt, damage, or kill someone or something. Rioting is by definition fucking violence, dumbass.
Rioting is violence. Rioting is violence.
Rioting is
what
violence.
You do and what your ancestor did is violence. That's
my
violence.
Ancestor? What ancestors? My ancestors aren't.
You don't have any ancestors? Did you just sprout up? Did you just? Okay, hold on.
My grandparents immigrated here.
Tell me where your grandparents come from. Tell me where your grandparents come from.
Czechoslovakia, Scotland, Germany, and one is a Cherokee.
And there was no violence from them. When did your parents come? When did your parents come from there? What generation are you? What generation in America are you?
Second generation. Huh? My grandparents moved here
then
in World War II.
What you think about American history? Then honestly, you actually think you can talk about American history. Hold on, you actually think you can talk about American history and then excuse yourself from American history? You're either part of it or no. Hold on. Fuck you and your family. If you're not a part of American history and you think you can critique it and then at the same time say, I have nothing to do with it, fuck you and your family, then you have nothing to do with it. I'd rather talk to someone whose lineage goes down through American history. Because you're actually trying to argue the same things that white Americans would do, who were slave owners, who were people who lynched people, who are people who are so pro Jim Crow, and then at the same time you were saying, I have nothing to do with it. Then I don't care what you think or your family. You think you have it out. You are arguing the point of a white man, and then when you are addressed, you say, "Hey, my family ain't even from this country." then get the fuck out of it. Then no one cares what you think. You don't
No,
have both.
I'm
You
arguing
can't
the
have both.
point
You
of
cannot have
humanity
both of
in
the
general,
slave
motherfucker.
You cannot argue the slave master's point and then at the same time
I ain't
when it's
arguing the
addressed,
slave
and then
master's
at the
point.
same time when it's addressed,
Fucking ass.
you say I'm not a part of the slave master's.
Do you know
So-
what a straw man is? Because you've built one so fucking high I can
benefiting from
ignite you
slavery.
with it.
What?
Do you know what a straw man is? Because you've built one
Please.
so fucking
You are
high.
literally saying I am not from this country, so you cannot address me and my
No.
family. But at the same time, I will defend everything from slavery on out.
I haven't
Listen,
defended
if
shit from
if that's your
slavery
route,
on out.
if that's your route, who gives a fuck about you and your family if you have nothing to do with American history? And unless you are like willing enough to argue a certain point, because there's only cowards like you who do that. Because when
the
it
point
comes
I'm
to debating,
arguing-
when it
the
comes to
point
debating, there
I'm
are people.
arguing-
There are people from England who will debate slavery, who will debate Jim Crow, who will debate racism, who will debate lynching, and they won't say, "Well, my family's not from there. My family's not from there, so you can't touch me."
I'm not debating.
You are
any
doing
of those
both.
things.
You are
No,
a coward.
I'm not
You
debating
either do
anything.
one or do the other. You either
You're-
do one
you're
or do the other.
strawmanning
You're
my
either going to
position.
argue that point. You are
I'm
either
not
going to
arguing-
argue that point or you're not.
I'm not arguing anything about
Any
slavery.
point,
I'm
right?
arguing.
You're not arguing any point.
I
were
am
just
arguing that
privilege of
violence
the white
begets
man.
more violence, and that the rioting and violence only further hinders your fucking cause.
There were the same people in the civil rights movement who said the same shit. You are meaningless.
Yeah, Martin Luther King said the same shit. He said that he understands why people are rioting, but he didn't fucking condone it, you dumbass.
Honestly, if this is the whole point, that I'm arguing with a guy who could easily argue the civil rights movement, what am I doing here? I don't know you. I don't even know your name. I will not remember you. If this is the
Amon,
point
can you
of this
turn down
discussion- if
Xanatrix?
this is the point
He's
of this
suddenly
discussion,
louder
I
than
will
his
hang up now and not remember this dude, period. Because he sounds like a coward. He has every out he wants. So we're either going to talk about something or just let me go. Because I'm doing a motherfucking favor. I have a podcast to record.
Only
right
coward
now.
here is you. Only coward here is you. You flip the arguments and build straw men so that you can knock them fucking down.
I'm not even talking.
I don't give a fuck if you're not talking to me. I'm talking to you. You talked at me. I'm gonna talk at you.
So,
This is equivalent exchange, motherfucker.
Is this motherfucker? Oh, you're so tough. You were such a tough guy, right?
You were the one swearing first. I might as well respond to you in language you can fucking understand. Since you decided to go lowbrow with me, I'll go lowbrow with you. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. You've built all these arguments that don't even fucking attain to the original argument.
You are angry. You want to know what's funny? You want to know what people like you are frustrated with? Because you no longer count in the conversation. Before you guys did, because you were lynching people, because people like you were doing something. Now it's fucking intellectuals, and no one gives a fuck about white men who are filled with fucking anger and fear and fucking.
I'm filled with anger and fear, right?
Fucking Kaepernick didn't rise for the fucking flag.
Projection.
And people like you.
Yeah, I love that projection.
Twitter now. All you guys have our Twitter now, right? Because
Projection
nobody
up the
gives a fuck
ass.
about you, because the conversation has gone over your head and no one cares when
Gone over my head. I know more about this issue than you do. I actually study it.
NFL player no longer cares, and he says, "I'm gonna sit the fuck down." You know, all you guys have is Twitter. That's all you have. And the real conversation is happening over your head, and you guys feel fucking neutered. You guys feel fucking worthless. You guys feel powerless, and all you have is online. So that's what's going on. And I came on here trying to have a conversation, but you were just on some petty bullshit. You know?
I wasn't on
So
petty shit at all.
the
Jesus.
conversation is gonna go over your head, and no one's gonna remember you or think of you. And you white neutered guys are gonna feel so powerless because the conversation is past you. And I understand it's a world you're losing, and it must suck. It must
World
be
we're
fucking
losing.
terrible because the more progressive this world gets, the less you guys are even acknowledged. You know what I mean? So okay.
The eternal march of quote-unquote progress, because the regressive left totally
because
thinks going backwards is
quote-unquote
progress.
Progress isn't happening. Quote-unquote progress isn't happening. Trump is your last boy. How does that feel to have
Trump-
this ignorant, fucking inarticulate.
Motherfucker, I don't support either I don't support either
That is
presidential
your guy.
candidate. Are you kidding me?
That is
Both
your
of them
guy.
are fucking bullshit.
There is no one else. There is no one else.
Are you even listening to me?
And she doesn't
I don't give a fuck about Trump. I don't give a fuck
Trump
about
is
Clinton.
her-
They're both shit. They're
But
both
that's all you
shit.
got is Trump. But
I
that's
don't
all
got
you
Trump.
is
I don't fucking need
Who do you
Trump.
have? Who do you have? Ted
Who do-
Cruz? Wait, hold on. There were 16 people. Who do you have? Ted Cruz? Ben Carson? Who the fuck do you have?
I'm a
next?
libertarian, dumbass.
Who do you have? Ted Cruz? Ben
I'm a
Carson?
libertarian, dumbass. Gary
Who do you
Johnson.
have? Who do you have?
Gary Johnson.
You
Fucking
have-
idiot.
You have nothing. Jesus. That's
Fucking idiot.
Oh my God. You have Gary Johnson.
He's a hell of a better candidate than anybody else out there right now.
Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
You guys, I feel how scary is it to be who you are? To
Not-
know that the more progressive society gets, like you must watch like sci-fi movies and be terrified.
Why would I be terrified? Why would I be terrified of you?
Because to know that
You're powerless.
It had nothing to do with me. I did not say me. You see how pathetic you are? I
No,
said
you
as far
said
as sci-fi goes,
you specifically said that the more the world gets progressive, the less I am around.
You are dying.
Which means you have to count yourself as part of the
You guys must know
progressed.
shit. The more progressive the world gets, the more irrelevant I am. Fuck, I wish I was born in the 60s. I wish I was born in the 70s. Me and my limp dick fucking ass, and all I have is just being a white man, and I just wish I could fucking...
Why is he making this all about race?
I didn't make it all about race. I just mentioned race. It's
No,
not
you just
all
said,
about race.
all I
It's
got
about
is being a
pathetic
white
you
man.
are.
That is literally making it about race. I've got plenty of shit that has nothing to do with the color of my skin, including my education and all the people who care about
Your
me.
education
So,
has nothing to do with your skin. Hold on. Your education has nothing to do with your skin?
no. I'm
Okay.
paying out the ass for loans.
Your
I'm not.
education has nothing to do with your skin. Okay. Good.
Yeah, I'm
good to-
paying out the ass for my loans. Whereas,
Oh, I'm paying out.
yeah, I am paying out the ass for my loans.
Okay, listen. I'm going to let you guys go. I'm not going to remember this about a week from now, and it's cool. And you guys just enjoy whatever the fuck you guys are doing. And I hope it leads to something, but honestly, the world is passing you guys by. And I think
Run
you
like a
guys know
coward.
it.
That's all you have to do now.
If you want me to stay, what the fuck you want to talk about? I'll stay, but we ain't.
I want you
talking
to
about
address the actual arguments we bring
Address
forward
what?
instead of building the fucking straw men that you've built.
Fuck.
Fuck.
What argument are you bringing?
I already told you that no human on the face of the planet, regardless of who they are, should use force to get what they want. And that the rioting that occurs in the wakes of both
You asserted
justified and
something-
unjustified shootings is wrong.
Okay, I will take my time to just humor what you're saying. You asserted something without any proof. Prove to me what you just said. Because you just asserted something, but you haven't proved it. So
What did I
please
assert
prove
that
what-
needs proof?
You just said that no human on the planet. Wait, what was it?
I said
No
I
human
said
on the
no
planet
human
has
on the
not-
planet
Shut the fuck up and let
has-
me. You asked me. Go ahead.
I
I'm
said
gonna
no
let you
human
even though you asked me
should
a
use
fucking
violence
question.
to get what they want. No human.
Prove that that's a truth. Prove
That's
you
not
can't assert-
that's a position. That's not a claim. That is not a claim that
You are literally saying prove it wrong. You are asserting something and then asking me to prove your claim
No.
wrong.
it isn't a claim though. It's a position. The position is no human should use violence to get what they want. The claim then follows.
Can I say the opposite? Can I say every human should get what they want through violence? Like what are you talking about? You're not. Do you even know what debate means? Like you literally said something. And I asked you to prove it. You said I don't need to prove it. All I need to do is say it. So
No,
can I
it's
just
not.
say
It's
the
not a
opposite?
It's
Can
not
I
a
just say
claim.
the
It's not.
opposite?
It's not a claim of. Okay.
Can I just say the opposite?
If you say the opposite,
I'm
then
curious. Hold on. Can I just say the opposite and then we're going nowhere? Right?
that's okay. First of all, the position is no human should get anything through violence. They should not use violence to take
Every
things from
human
others.
should get everything through violence.
No.
Now where are
You,
If I say
then
that, even
then
though
I
I
added
Can
to
I just
it.
say that?
Then I added to it that the rioting and violence does not help the cause. All it does is make it worse.
You are not saying. Do you even know how to debate a point? Listen, I get what you're trying to. I almost want to help you because this is kind of pathetic. Because I am not 100% on the side where I'm at. Because I understand that I'm not like you. I'm not just like, oh, how I feel is totally how it should be. I'm going to help you out a little bit. But I'm going to tell you this. If you want to argue that violence is not the way to get what you're trying to get, you can find a way to defend that. But you can't just assert it and then just say, okay, prove me wrong.
You want to? Okay, you want to? You want a defense of that? You want a defense of that from an evolutionary perspective?
You can't cut me off. You haven't said anything. You haven't said. Listen, I can argue so many points and then just be like, no, I didn't say anything. I just said something. So why do I need to prove anything? Like, what are you talking about? Where do you come from? Do you not understand debate? Do you not understand trying to argue your point? What the fuck is going on?
When you debate, there has to be a claim of material. I didn't make a material claim. I made a statement of intent. However, if you want me to prove my statement of intent from an evolutionary point, no, you said don't cut you off, and now don't cut me. No, you said don't cut you off. Don't you cut me off now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, you want me to prove that nobody should...
I helped your bum ass get here. Go ahead.
No, you didn't help me do shit. I've had this position since before you got in this call. But anyway.
So then why the fuck did you assert something and then act?
It's a position. It's not a claim. It's not an assertion or a statement of fact. It's a position.
So I can say blue is yellow and then be like, yeah, blue is yellow.
No, see, that's a claim. That's an assertion and claim of fact. Saying should is not saying is.
You literally stated
dumbass.
So hard. And then you said, I don't need to prove it because I didn't. I don't even know what the end of that statement is. I don't need to prove it because...
It's not something you prove. A position of... In
front of someone that I disagreed with and did like...
Jesus fucking Christ.
What's the echo I'm hearing?
I think it's probably from Amon.
So... I'm actually in kind of a good mood, regardless of the topic.
It's not the topic that frustrates me, it's the fact that this guy doesn't get the difference between a position and a claim of matter.
Oh. Wow.
Okay, I said that people should no, it's
you literally said I said something.
Amon, Ishmael is significantly quieter than.
Yeah, he keeps turning him down.
Oh, why?
Because he was way louder than me initially.
Oh, okay.
But okay, so what I said was people should not use violence to get what they want. They should not use violence as a mean of coercion or extortion. That is not a claim of material. That is a position. That is a philosophical position.
So why say it if you can't back it up with it? Like so I might as well just refute it and say, position of you should use like why are you wasting our time? Like if you're...
Do you want me to back it up?
I just said hold on. If you were literally saying I said something that I don't need to back up and it just has to do with my feelings and I have like what are we doing here? Like what are you talking about?
Do you want me to back up the position from an evolutionary point of view, even though it's philosophical?
Why the fuck did you say it if we weren't going to discuss it and we're not going to debate it? Why assert something?
We're gonna discuss it. This isn't a debate point yet.
I did not assert it to any level that I need to prove it.
But that's because it wasn't a debate point. It was a position. Philosophy and claims of material fact are two entirely different things. But if you want me to back up a philosophy,
do you not understand what you did was cowardly? Can I do what you
did?
It's
not cowardly.
Why even do it? Why even do it?
It's called a preface.
Oh my God.
You start things over with an opening statement.
It's called a preface. P-R-E, like Jesus.
P-R-E-F-A-C-E.
Are we talking or are we not?
Okay, let me put it this way. You say I should claim it. Fine, let's go with this. From an evolutionary point of view, from an evolutionary point of view, killing people and using violence to get what you want causes social instability, which lowers the gene pool when murder eventually happens between social strata. You know what? That's
So,
bad for the evolution of
What
the
are you
species.
arguing?
You want it?
Who said anything about murder or anything? This is what I mean. Who said that? What are you talking about? Who was like pro-murder? What are you talking about?
You were pro-rioting. Pro-rioting is pro-violence.
That is not murder. Please
Yes, it is.
stop. You see what I mean? You see how
Okay,
you
wait.
have no
What's the
ground to
difference
stand on?
between rioting and murder?
There's
The
a
only-
huge
the
No,
only-
no, no,
There's
no. White guy. I don't remember your name. Just
Xanatrix.
Xanthrax. No, no.
Xanatrix.
I understand. Let's just let this guy describe the difference, and then we'll
I don't
Respond.
need to describe
Yeah,
anything. I mean, it's an obvious. There's rioting and then there's murder. Listen. He has. I'm still waiting for him.
Oh,
to explain why rioting is wrong.
I understand.
He brought up murder. He brought up murder, which is wrong. So he needs to try again. I don't need to refute it. He has not done anything that makes me want to refute him. Please tell me where murder
Ishmael
comes into
is
rioting.
saying that riots can happen without murder.
Which is
while
obvious,
they're-
right? Is
While
that new?
they're inherently disruptive, they're not inherently destructive.
But that's not what my claim was. My claim was that social instability leads to murder.
Yeah.
Riots cause social instability.
No, it
Riots.
doesn't.
Yes, it does. They're a form of violence against society.
Yeah, there's yeah.
Protest. First of all, protest does not lead to murder.
Protests
Peaceful
aren't
does not
the
lead to
same.
death.
Protests aren't
Protest
the
does
same
not lead
thing
to
as
murder.
riots.
Do not lead to murder. And if and this is not said in a vacuum. So we will acknowledge Black Lives Matters, and we'll just give it to them, even though it has nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. But we'll say at the same time Black Lives Matter was rioting, was protesting, there were a group of people rioting. What riots within the past, I don't know, year or two, which we're talking about Black Lives Matter, led to murder?
Well,
And led to instability. Because
The
you
Milwaukee
are-
riots.
The Texas shooting.
Fucking Milwaukee riots.
Black Lives Matters beer hall putsch,
What?
the one where they killed more cops than the Nazis did during their comparable event.
What are you talking about?
Black
Black Lives Matters have
Which
no
one was
death
the one with
on
the
their
sniper?
hands. What are you talking about?
Texas.
This sounds
The
so
Texas riot.
disgusting. This sounds so intellectually disgusting. What are you talking about? Black Lives Matter leading to more cops than Nazis?
Okay,
What the
okay,
fuck
so-
are you talking about?
So,
There was no one dead from the fucking Black Lives Matters riot.
yeah, there was the
Oh,
sniper.
the Texas riot.
A sniper in Texas killed a whole bunch of people, dude.
Yeah, he
That
killed
had nothing
five.
to do with Black Lives Matter.
Yes,
Wait,
it
hold
does.
on.
Well,
Is that actually who I'm talking to now? You guys are relating any deaths that have nothing to do with Black Lives Matter because it's
The member said that he's a supporter of Black Lives Matter. Shooter said that he's a supporter of Black Lives Matter.
Is that who I'm talking to? Because if this is the thing where there's no proof, where there's literally
There is proof. He said that he's a supporter of Black Lives Matter. That is the proof.
The man said outright that he supported Black Lives Matter. That means that
so
as
people
a
supported. So what about Anders, homeboy who killed 70 people? Who's that related to?
let's check. Anders Breivik.
Yeah, and who's that related to? Are you literally saying that's related to Christianity? Because this is the first time I heard that.
if he claims it's
That has
if he-
nothing to do with Black Lives Matter. They even are starting to say.
He did it in the name of Christianity. Yes, it does.
So hold on. Hold on. He had PTSD. That is related to the motherfucking military. If you want to talk about it, like let's grow the fuck up. Where did he get his PTSD from?
Yeah, because ideas do not matter. Values do not matter.
Listen, I'm not talking to you, you child. Stop. I'm talking to the person who is actually taking his time to be a grown-up about discussing things. So you can giggle and do all that other shit Just relax.
We're laughing
okay?
because
I'm
you're
talking to-
ridiculous.
You say we're laughing. So hold on. So he's Black Lives Matters now, right? Is he Black Lives Matter? Because if he's Black Lives Matter, then we don't need to talk anymore. Is he Black Lives Matter then? So if I go out and start murdering people tomorrow because my job sucks and I don't have anything else to do, and Black Lives Matters makes me realize how black people are being treated like shit, am I now Black Lives Matter?
If you claim
If you say that you,
I'm not talking.
if you say that,
Listen. You are.
if you say that you're killing people because
Stop, please. I'm just trying to talk to the moderator. Please just let us communicate through him, so I don't got to communicate through you.
the moderator is Amon
You
who
are
is
a
trying to
child.
say things.
Did you think I was the moderator?
Yes, because you at least seem like a sensible person. This
No,
guy's
I'm
a child.
just a
This guy's
shit
like-
coaster, but I could be the moderator.
He's like coughing up his fucking testicles. Like, I don't need to talk to him. Why am I here? Like, hold on. Who brought me on here?
I
Amon.
Why
actually,
am I here, really?
Amon did.
I would rather talk about
Amon, are you here? Amon, are you
Yeah, I'm
here?
there.
Why am
box
I
I
here?
saw outside.
Because I need to tell you guys something. I am not getting nothing from this. I'm not going to benefit from it. I'm not going to tell my audience about it. I'm literally trying to have a serious conversation. And if I need to talk to this clown who's like giggling and going, like, I literally can just hang up and move on my way. I am not benefiting at all. I have my own podcast. I'm not going to tell my podcast about this, because there's no benefit about this. But if this fucking clown who's not going to allow us, I thought we were going to have a serious conversation. And if we're going to have that, I'm happy to have it, and I will talk for hours about this. But if I got to fuck with some fuckboy who's like giggling and going about dumb shit, I am literally willing to be convinced that the guy who murdered cops is Black Lives Matter. I'm not a person who's going to cut you off, who's not going to allow you to talk. If you can convince me he is, I'm okay with that. I'm not even Black Lives Matter, so we know. I'm not Black Lives Matter. And if you convince me that, I'm okay with that. I have no skin in the game. I just want truth. But I don't want to argue with some fuckboy who's just like, I'm totally, I'm going to cut you. And I'm gonna, like, come on, man, stop. I literally had a conversation last week with a motherfucking Chicago police officer. And we had a conversation about Black Lives Matter, and we had a good conversation because I'm not a child, because she can tell me how she feels about Black Lives Matter, how she feels about how police see Black Lives Matter, and I'm willing to sit down and have that conversation. But this does not feel like that's this. If you want to have a conversation, let's have it. But I'm telling you, I am not going to have this like childish, like, fuck you bullshit. Because that fucking bothers me.
Only one who started it.
And I want to tell you, the conversation I had with the Chicago cop was so fucking good, she became a patron of mine. And she said, I appreciated it, and I appreciated how you represented me. I'm now a patron of you. And now you're working for the cops, ha, ha, ha. You're working for the Chicago cops. And then I come on here with a bunch of fuckboys, and now we can't have a fucking grown-up conversation. Why is that? Why do you think that is?
Because he constantly tried to speak over everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't really give people the chance
so I
to
don't
respond.
allow people to insult me and say some fuckboy shit. There has not been a serious conversation since I came on. Of course, if someone tries to get on me, I'm gonna get all over them. I'm gonna tell you, I'm aggressive ass motherfucker. But if you want to sit down and talk about something, the Chicago cop was a woman, and her and I had a conversation, and it was no disrespect. And I had a conversation yesterday that I'm about to put up tomorrow on my podcast. That's with a white dude, and him and I just do not agree. There's no problem. I've never had any problem. I'm on podcast number 49. No problem. And then all of a sudden I get on here and I don't know how to act because I'm on here with some fucking racist ass bitch ass fuckboy.
Racist.
How are they racist? How are we
And I
racist?
gotta tell you,
Prove
I'm
that
about
claim.
to hang up because I am not recording this. So
Wait,
this
wait,
isn't coming on.
wait.
Hold on. I just want you to know I'm not recording this. So this isn't going on my podcast. So You guys got to realize I have no skin in the game. I
Can
have no reason to continue to fucking talk to you guys.
can
None.
I be on your podcast? I would be serious for your podcast.
I
I'm
know. I know that's
I'm
a
not
joke.
serious
Go-
for Amon's
I know
podcast
that's
most
a
of the
joke. I
time
know that's a
because
joke. Go ahead.
they're
Go ahead and do your thing. And I'm telling you, you guys got like 10 to 15 minutes because I'm literally, it's motherfucking Sunday. It's 6 o'clock. I got to finish. I got like to do my outro for my motherfucking podcast. So I have no reason to be here. So you guys go and do your thing. I'm not trying to be overly aggressive. But when you get some ignorant ass fuck boys on here, like what I actually fucked up by taking him serious because I should have just laughed and said nothing and just giggled and that's all. But go
yeah,
ahead
you
and
you
do
really
what you
should
gotta
have.
do. Yeah, I know.
But I if family makes one more qualified to speak on subjects regarding America, my great wait yeah, Mike, I think that's how many greats. That grandfather fought in the Civil War, and I have a rapier from the Civil War, and my great grandfather fought in the in World War I, and my grandfather has a German helmet from that war. So that makes me more qualified to have an opinion on American history than um, Anthrax the Dragon.
Xanatrix.
Zan.
Just call me Zan for short.
Let me try to say your name one time without a stammer.
Okay. It's Xanatrix.
Vercingetorix. No, Vercingetorix.
What? What? Where did you even get that?
Oh, I'm just making fun of the X's in your name and comparing you to a late French, Gaulish king and chieftain who lost to Julius Caesar.
Okay, why are you comparing me to a Gaul who lost to Caesar?
Because you have an X in your name and it's hard to pronounce. He has an X in his name and it's hard to pronounce.
I don't think that here I'll give you a pronunciation guide. There you go. It's not really that hard.
Xanatrix.
Now you're just being pedantic and obtuse. Now you're just being pedantic and obtuse.
Xanatrix. Zadar.
Zadare.
Zadar.
Zadare. But that's fine. Just call me Zan for short.
Alrighty. Ishmael, have you hung up on us yet?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, what do you think about feminism?
What?
What do you think about feminism was the question.
How about you tell me what you think about feminism?
Well, I'm not a big fan of third wave feminism.
What?
I'm not a supporter of third wave feminism.
Wait, where the fuck you come from? You come
Amon's the
Captain
mel-
Saberho? Amon comes from. Come on.
Amon is the moderator. He's been here the entire time.
He's the moderator. Okay. Go ahead. Say it again. I
I'm
will
not a
play
big
along.
fan of
I
third
will
wave
honestly play along with you guys, even though I should probably hang up and never talk to you guys ever again. But go ahead. Go ahead, Amon.
I'm not a big fan of third wave feminism.
Okay. You haven't said anything. Oh, am I supposed to lay it all on the line? I'm not a big fan of third wave feminism. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and say something so I can just jump all over you.
I think
Come on, like,
intersectionality is the most
just-
retarded idea.
Since
You gotta say more than I'm not a big fan, because I feel like this whole thing is like I want to hear people who disagree with me, and then I'll just be all God Almighty, and I'm just like, come on.
You want my position on it, and in a serious fashion? Okay. I believe
I
that
don't
modern.
want anyone listen. I just want to talk to grown-ups. Like
I am a grown
Okay.
up, thank you.
I am also a grown
I've
up.
never come across people who all of a sudden I have to like chase them down to find out how they feel about things.
And I
That's
think
not a normal
think
thing.
we should have a less emotionally charged topic of conversation. So, what is everyone's favorite bird? Starting with Ishmael.
The Iris Phoenix. I don't know. What are you talking about? Leave me alone.
Okay.
I don't know.
The phoenix is a Native American invention, but okay.
Well, they have
Xanatrix.
no
What's
rights. Fuck the Native Americans.
okay?
Powerless bastards.
Xanatrix.
See, we actually could have fun if we. I'm the most inappropriate motherfucker. you can
Favorite
see.
favorite
But we had to
bird?
deal with this fuckboy.
Yes.
Favorite
What's
bird?
your favorite bird?
The cassowary.
Oh wow.
I like me my almost dinosaur that still murders people to this day.
Okay, Amon, what's your favorite bird?
I would say the crested crane. Crested crane.
Ah, well, my favorite bird is the specific kestrel that flew into my my palm tree a couple weeks ago. I believe it was hunting the pigeons that seem to have congregated into my town.
Sounds like a good pest extermination system from nature.
Yeah. Though I'm a little bit worried it might get into fights with the cats who also hunt those pigeons.
I don't know. Do you happen to know what species of kestrel it is?
I googled red kestrel and it brought me the common kestrel, which would be actually, I think the cats around here might be heavier than that bird, so it would be not in its best interest to fight it.
Can I change my answer? I think my
Yes.
favorite bird is probably my girlfriend. She is smoking hot.
Okay.
Just to let you know, my girlfriend was telling me, your favorite bird isn't me? I'm like, oh, okay. I can do that. She's so adorable. I love her.
Am I still here? What's going on? Can I go home?
You
I'm
can.
literally staying. Come
If you want to leave, man. Nobody's holding you here.
on. Okay. You guys have a good
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
later. Okay, now I gotta figure out how to hang up on USOs.
Oh, it's
It's the red headset, the red handset looking button.
You can also just close the browser window.
That was quite strange, I would say. I mean,
Dude, how do you not get that rioting equals violence? What? I just how rioting isn't violence. Protest doesn't lead to murder. Yeah, peaceful protest doesn't normally lead to murder, but rioting is not peaceful. It may be a form of protest, but it's also super fucking violent.
Dude, let's read the Mandela article on air.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that now. I'm gonna eat my pizza now. I was trying not to eat my pizza while we were doing that, so I didn't make chewing sounds on air, but I don't care anymore.
No way! I had a pizza for dinner too.
Sean, can you read for us?
Oh, sure. Well, what am I reading? Is it... Oh! No. Mandela is not my hero. Mandela was buried yesterday.
December
15th, 2013. In keeping with the non-deistic rites of African spirituality. An ox was sacrificed to attend his passing into the world of his ancestors. Which is fine and good. Hang on. Xanatrix did something and it moved the okay. In an Africa where intellectuals are eager to be buried in accordance with the rituals of Christian or Muslim oppressors. Unlike in
Unlike in Islamo-Judeo-Christian cultures where hierarchies shadow every man from cradle to grave, community, and equality between human beings and the cult, the reverence for our departed, form the basis of traditional African society.
I was reacting to the fact that
They didn't just say Abrahamic?
No, well, yes, but there was a comma, and then he capitalized the I instead of as if it was another sentence. Islamo-Judeo-Christian cultures. Oh wow, that's a great way to just lump half of the world together in a completely inappropriate way.
I mean, the primary religion in the world is 2.2 billion people Christian, 1.6 billion Muslim, so...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know there were,
That many Christians?
No, that many people who weren't Christian. I thought it was more like 3 billion or 4 billion.
Admittedly, the statistics I'm pulling are just from the Wikipedia article that separates the population based on religious belief. But after Muslims comes 1.1 billion that are it says 4 different categories: non-religious, atheist, spiritualist, and I forget what the 4th category is. It's basically anything outside of bigger established religions that isn't another religion, basically. Do you want me to keep reading, or do you want Sean to keep reading? I can make it sound
scary.
I can make it sound.
Just make it sound huffy and obnoxious, but I can't really do that when it's poorly written.
Oh, I see.
I can proof mark it in my head as I'm going through and ignore. So, many Westerners would have wanted to make a pilgrimage to Mandela's tomb. African culture does not allow it. In this culture, no death is different from any other, and everyone has their own ancestor, a parent, immediate kin. Mandela, therefore, has become an ancestor to his children, his grandchildren, his cousins, nephews, etc. Not a supreme ancestor of South Africans. Everyone has their own ancestor, as Steve Biko is the ancestor of his own family, no less than Mandela is. And it is this communal conception underpinning social cohesion, which is the root of the struggle,
got an apple.
that led Mandela to spend 27 years behind bars. Those who branded Mandela a communist simply did not understand that African tradition did not have to read Karl Marx to understand that social injustice is the worst enemy of any society, far from any possible external enemy.
Social injustice.
Yeah.
And Egypt. QQ.
QQ, yeah. And for having betrayed the African principle of struggle for the equitable partitioning of South Africa's resources, Mandela has failed in his mission. It is all unfolded as if he entered prison because his people were... Oh, wow, wow. That caused graphical glitches, so I couldn't read any of the letters for a second.
Yeah, that too, but...
Yeah. It all unfolded as if
I want to
because
comment
his
on
people
this.
were eager to have white friends.
What do you want to comment?
Fuck everyone who keeps moving the goalpost for Nelson Mandela's fucking achievements. Like he got. Oh, actually, I don't know what he got, but can one of you remind me real quick?
What?
Did he give? Okay, but like specifically, what does that mean? Did he just give black people the right to vote and own property, or
right to vote on property, and also have some fair share of land?
Okay, he gave Africans in South Africa the right to vote, to own property, to like, what the hell more do you want from him? Do you want him?
He didn't go full commie.
They want him to be a communist.
No, that's not good for Africa. That's
Yeah, I know. Anyway, no.
Yeah.
By pillaging South Africa's wealth, these Europeans have proven themselves thieves, crooks. Emerging from prison, Mandela gave the impression that it was enough to join the thieves in their peaceful slumber inside a toilet, instead of demanding some restitution of the nation's wealth. It's not important whether Nelson Mandela is Pugala's hero or not. What is worth asking is if he was a hero to his own people. How have his people lived out these gaping differences between their daily misery and the images which the media have created of him? To understand this question, we must revisit the day of the memorial ceremony at the Soweto Stadium. The seats were desperately empty, discounting most of the 90 heads of state and their delegations. Some, like the French president, even came with 2 aircraft. Add the many journalists who waited 8 hours in queue for accreditation. We see the extent the disinterest which neglected black South Africans had for this man. But what struck me more is not what happened in the main stadium. Rather, it is what happened at the other Orlando stadium, and worse, that didn't happen. At this stadium, giant screens erected to accommodate the many South Africans who could not attend the main event remained largely empty, with the spattering of Western journalists assigned to cover the atmosphere at the stadium were all forced to invent stories from whole cloth because there were no actors in the movie production. The people simply didn't show up. So we can say that Mandela is a hero for whites and not for blacks. But why? Then there's a quote that says, "The most powerful weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed."
That is kind of strawmanning Nelson Mandela, Steve Biko's quote. It has nothing to do with what they're speaking in here.
Yeah, I know. I might add that the greater intelligence of the oppressor is his ability to employ the oppressed in the same service of his own oppression, and in addition, that he should take part eagerly. Nelson Mandela is the turncoat who had completely turned over to put himself firmly in the service of the oppressor. He became twice as dangerous as the oppressor because in acting as proxy against his own people, who had inadvertently lowered their guard, convinced that their own was finally in charge. It was not so. A grave mistake. Their man at the helm wasn't working for them, but was completely manipulated. Mandela was working for the oppressor to serve one singular purpose, that of grabbing the nation's vast natural resources in the hands of a few European men and women, serving a well-off minority, always greedy for the treasure and the blood of this doubly betrayed people. This same Mandela, the bomber who had toured Africa and in North Africa, acquired the skills to force the foreign oppressor into making concessions and sharing the country's wealth. 27 years in prison were enough to erase his claims to advocating a just society. Mandela was put at the service of a vile system of injustice and exclusion. You've passed the line. I can't see it anymore.
Oh.
Vile system of injustice and exclusion, one of the worst in the world. He chose to emerge the champion of democratic futility. He'd become a useful idiot who could be recruited to sell Western-style democracy. But, judging by the results, it was a lie which the seller had sold to himself. Praising the merits of democracy by citing Nelson Mandela's South Africa has always seemed to me a bad joke, or a cynicism that dare not speak its name, because, as I've always said, voting has never changed a people's destiny. Voting has never changed a country. And the fate of the African population in South Africa, before and after the horrible violence of the apartheid era with its complicity in Western countries, supposed champions of democracy, attests to this fact. The ANC president, Oliver Tambo, wrote to this Mandela upon his release from prison, "The fight for freedom must go on until it is won, until our country is free and happy and peaceful. As shares of the community of man, we cannot rest." Wow, that is really badly written. I couldn't save that. I really couldn't save that.
Wait, the quotation?
Technically a translation.
Oh, it's a translation, that's why. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, so this is all translated from, I'm guessing, French.
From French.
Yeah.
So the article wasn't originally in English.
Yeah, it's from French. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That explains a lot of the things I'm trying to save and slightly failing at.
Yeah.
I mean, it might just be grammatically correct in French to
I'm sure it is.
To start the line after a comma with a capital letter.
I could always read this in an obnoxiously bad fake French accent if you want.
Oh my God, please.
Would you like that? Would you like that, Amon?
Yep.
Should I read this in an obnoxiously bad fake French accent?
Yep.
In other words, our freedom struggle must continue until victory, until our community is free and happy. Question: did Mandela's ANC win or lose the battle it had undertaken to free its people and make them happy? Are the South African people happy? Compared to the period of apartheid, are they better off today? The answer is unequivocal. Mandela lost. The ANC lost. And on several levels. It's been barely 10 days since the former South African president died. He's already been canonized by the Western media, basking with satisfaction in the memory of this well-behaved African, delivering what the status quo expected of him. Some Africans have even joined his chorus. I can't keep that up. I'm going to start laughing too much. Winnie Mandela, an uncertain divorce. When Nelson divorced Winnie, the official reason cited was infidelity. Winnie had cheated with a young lawyer. This act was certainly evidence to support my suspicions that Mandela had signed an agreement to become a spokesman and not a real president. Recall the man who had always been presented to us. Good, generous, patient, forgiving of those who had cost him 27 years of his life. Able to forgive those who tortured and killed almost all his companions. Imagine the same man losing his head over a woman, spiteful over a story of jealousy, to the point of excluding his wife from his inner circle during his inauguration as President of the Republic of South Africa. This woman, who for 27 years had fought for him, was I think that's just supposed to be was the mother to their children. Was the mother to their children. Stayed in prison, organized demonstrations, boycotts, etc. It was too much to not raise suspicions. The documentary broadcast after Mandela's death by Art Television entitled Nelson Mandela, The Reconciler, on Friday, December 6th at 8:50 p.m. 111-minute documentary delivers fragments of the real truth. The agreement signed by Mandela with his captors is behind. Yes, tinfoil hat time, everybody. Tinfoil hat time. The agreement signed by Mandela with his captors is behind the breakup with his wife. Winnie Mandela has accused her husband of having betrayed the people. According to this documentary, the story goes back a few months before the release of Nelson Mandela. He is abruptly transferred from his prison, separated from his companions 26 years in prison, to a luxurious private residence with garden and pool. Now, this is where you should live. This is the standard that corresponds to your rank, he was told. No sooner said than done, Mandela was comfortably installed at home. His wife Winnie was conducted to this villa by the South African Secret Services. This was the big day for Mandela to consume his first... I think that's supposed to be consummate, not consume. To consummate his first intimate night with his wife after waiting 26 years.
In French,
But
it's probably like consummate is like the word that they just use to mean eat, and then they also use it to mean consummate. That's
No, the word to eat is manger, and it only means to eat. I took
Google Translate.
I took 4 years of high school French, and I remember it a tiny bit.
I took 1 year of it because I needed an extra
Fine arts credit.
No, that's too great of a compliment for French. Elective credit.
Okay. Well, it's on the West Coast. It's used for fine arts credits that are required. You can use a foreign language of any type.
That might have changed because I was supposed to have 2 years of any language, and I went with German.
That's a nice language. I like German. I sound horrible when I try to speak it, though. I'm really bad at speaking German.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, you gotta speak it mit Passion.
Well, not just with passion, but it has to come from your gut, basically.
Dude, like half the kids that took foreign language with me failed the class, and I passed the class even if I barely knew English. It's like nobody wanted to do anything in there.
I love the fact that my girlfriend is making requests of me while I'm in this call. She's watching it, so she's one of the people watching. Yeah.
Hi, Xanatrix's favorite bird.
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead. Where did we stop?
I was. But Winnie refused. But Winnie refused. On that day, their marriage was over. Winnie visited all the rooms of the residence quietly, going to the pool, looking at the manicured trees.
By the way, all this is a lie, though. You have to know right here, all this line right here, it's just made up.
Yeah, and returned to tell Nelson she did not feel comfortable and she wanted to go. Winnie understood that her husband had been bought. That entire section is false. Yeah.
Yeah. She never even said that.
I know. Winnie was prudent and didn't spend any nights there, but others are less so, including ANC members who would take turns visiting the villa to tell their former leader of the new field, attacks, counterattacks, the rapprochement which they enjoyed with... I think that's supposed to be... That didn't translate. That's it's supposed to be rapport. Rapprochement? It's rapport. The
Nice.
Rapport which they enjoyed with the white community, including white communist militants. We will later discover that the house was bugged by the South African Secret Services, and even the trees in the gardens were fitted with microphones. And so, even before Mandela had proposed negotiations, Mr. Botha and de Klerk had already gathered as much information on Mandela and the strategies he intended to deploy. In any negotiation, if you can anticipate your counterpart's weaknesses, you've won the game. And this is how everything will be conducted at a great cost to the black community. Whites conceded nothing to the ANC's agenda. What surprised members of the ANC who were still imprisoned is that Mandela decided to negotiate with his murderers for the future 80% of the South African population without consulting anyone in the party, who for 27 years had carried his torch lest he be forgotten, so that he would not be killed in prison. Nobody knows what really happened. He never explained his decision. And then Liberation Day came, a masterpiece of stagecraft worthy of any Hollywood movie. Winnie, who knew that Mandela had betrayed everyone, still stood there hand in hand with him and raised her other clenched fist. What the people did not know then was that Mandela wasn't emerging from prison. He had come to love that house so much he built an exact replica in his village where he was buried. We all know what followed. Renunciation of the ANC program which outlined its freedom charter in black and white. Land redistribution. Nationalization of strategic companies in mining and energy sectors. None of that would come to pass. In its place, we had the world's biggest farce to insult the memory of all victims of slavery, colonization, and apartheid. I almost thought I was going to say colonialism, because they always talk about imperialism and colonialism. Trivializing the suffer.
Colonialism is an ongoing process.
Trivializing the suffering of an entire people to the point of asking the victims of indiscriminate apartheid-era violence to testify. Entire people... Well, of course they should testify. The victims should testify about the violent... What? What? Where's the... What? Trivializing the suffering of an entire people to the point of asking the victims to testify about the violence they experienced? How is that trivialization? That's addressing the issue direct. What? What is running? What? My brain. Why? Why? My girlfriend says you're a good kid, Sean.
Thank you. How old are both of you?
I'm 28, and she's old enough.
I'm 21.
Yeah.
In before I'm older than her.
No, around the same age.
Okay.
Old enough. Just I don't like to point out that there's an age gap between us.
You know what's worse? The gender pay gap. A gender age
You
gap.
point that out?
A gender age gap. Oh my god.
That is the real problem right there. You are appropriating Middle Eastern culture.
Oh god.
Yes. My girlfriend's actually a 6-year-old who I'm going to be married to for 3-year-olds and then have sex with. That is my girlfriend.
Oh, God.
That is cultural appropriation. Come on, man.
I'm appropriating Muhammad. By the way, guys, you can't draw pictures of me anymore. Can't draw pictures. I mean, you don't have any pictures of me now, but you can't draw. You can't draw pictures of me anymore. It's unholy. It's unholy. You can't do it.
That is cultural appropriation, man. You're appropriating all the Middle Eastern cultures. You need to go to prison, my man.
Apparently. But yeah, okay, so I don't understand how asking people who experienced violence to testify about the violence so the people who met violence upon them could be brought to justice is trivializing that suffering. But okay, we'll continue. To recount how they...
I think here is the reason they hate it. It's because they asked the people whether they would forgive the people who hurt them, and most people are willing to forgive.
Yeah.
And the communists felt bad for that because most people are left from prison for the forgiveness.
Yeah.
In the mercy reaction and mercy time, and which, by the way, influenced the future of South Africa positively in a way.
The logic is still killing me. I'm just gonna keep reading.
I mean, it kind of upsets them because they're like, he made them not get consequences by making the victims give them forgiveness.
My girlfriend says that yeah, she actually is 6. Her K-cups prove that.
God.
Wait, we'll sing a song for you, man. At the end, I'll open a YouTube song for you.
Okay. Anyway, to recount how they had applied their survival instincts to protect themselves against crimes committed under this depraved system. This is the punishment that black South Africans have been subjected to by their leader, Mandela. How's it a punishment to ask them to testify?
I mean, here's the thing though, when he made them testify, he also made the ANC members who committed violence come and testify. So they hate the fact that he punished the bad ANC members, in a way, by making them equally responsible with the bad white nationalists at the time.
Oh, so, he did the actual thing of punishing everybody who was bad. Okay. So he did for the leader.
It's like, he brought all of them together and then he made everyone kind of forgive each other and leave the past alone.
So he did the right thing then. He buried the hatchet.
Yeah. That's why they kind of viewed as quote-unquote oppressing them. Because, in fact, actually, there would be more blacks in prison than the way there would be whites in prison if he punished both sides.
Yeah.
So he decided to forgive both sides.
Yeah. What is curious is that this committee shed no light on the assassination of the prominent ANC figures like Steve Biko. It did not tell us that the South African Secret Service gave orders to assassinate Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme. Palm? Just Palm? I don't know. On Friday, February 28th, 1986, at 11:21 p.m., for his fight against the aberrant apartheid system. Worse still, the TRC in no way pretends to investigate what the spy Craig Williamson boarded was doing in Stockholm the day Palm was assassinated. The farce of the TRC did not tell us what toxic substance the founding chairman of PAC... Oh, gosh. I don't know how to pronounce all these names, and I feel really bad. Okay. PAC Sobukwe was inoculated with during his years in prison, only to be released from prison in 1969 and then dying slowly until 1978, who subsequently murdered his successor in exile, David Sibeko, on June 12, 1979 in Dar es Salaam,
Tanzania.
In Tanzania, yeah.
Go ahead.
The TRC told us nothing about how the South African intelligence services had sabotaged the plane of Mozambican President Samora... Is that Michel or Makel?
Makel, I guess? Makel?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if it's a French name or not. I don't know too much about Mozambique, but...
I think it's more of an English name.
Okay, so probably Makel then. Causing his death in 1984 because of his support for the armed wing of the ANC on its soil with training camps, and most importantly, who gave the orders to kill the Mozambican president. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Approached by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the Netherlands Institute for Southern Africa, led by a certain Peter, is that Hermes or just Hermes? I think it's Hermes. Yeah, to shed light on the Paris assassination of the African National Congress representative in France. He stated in his report to the committee, Dulcie September was killed, a person named September killed in March, nice, was killed March 29th, 1988 by the South African Secret Services with the complicity of the French Secret Services. Dulcie September was an easy target for the South African Secret Service, who believed that the anti-apartheid movement was not sufficiently implanted in France to provoke protests in Paris, unlike London or Amsterdam. But the real motive for the murder was elsewhere. Dulcie September was too closely interested in the arms deals between Paris and Pretoria.
So wait, I want to interrupt here. Dulcie September is African, right?
Yeah.
This is what I love about, like, African names, like Dulcie September, and then there's Good Luck Johnson.
Good Luck Jonathan.
Oh, I thought it was... Okay. How they're just, like, combinations of proper nouns from English.
I think it's this way, though. Kind of like in our language way of they give you a traditional name and then they interpreted the traditional name. So traditionally you would call something.
Okay. So his real name isn't Good Luck, it's
it would be something in his language, then they interpreted it to English. And then like there's also some unique cultures. I met some Eritreans in the south. And they had a very tribal culture, and the name they gave was quite unique. So the way they would name you is by the first thing your mom hears when you're being born. And I had a friend who was called in our language we call it bani. It means spread. Because that was what his mom heard. Shut up, you child.
Let me try and get composed to continue. Question: Why did the what? Okay. Why didn't the Commission demand that France come and explain and apologize to black people of South Africa, or for its interior minister at the time, Charles Pasqua, whose name is mentioned in the report? Or was it all supposed help in confusing the executioners, or was it all supposed to help in confusing the executioners from their victims? To counteract the psychological violence by such an initiative on the vulnerabilities of victims already traumatized by long years of apartheid-era police and military violence, he should have been asked to testify in exchange for a general clemency. The question that has always racked my mind was this: why have Western nations who suggested a reconciliation commission never applied one in their own countries? Here is an example. Commissions in Europe following the Second World War. Germany. Nuremberg trials. Held from November 20th, 1945 to October 1st, 1946 to prosecute 24 henchmen of the Third Reich. Or Reich. The Nuremberg trials defined Nazism as a crime. What? You went up. I was...
Okay.
I can't read it anymore if you go up.
Now? Have you reached there?
No, keep going down.
Down or up?
Down. Down the page.
Okay.
Keep going. Right there.
Here?
Right there, yeah.
Sorry.
The Nuremberg trials defined Nazism as a crime against peace and crimes against humanity. The curiosity is that the court invented powers and handed out retroactive sentences. In other words, this special court, which was established on the basis of no international legal text, violated all agreements to achieve the sole purpose of marking a break with the sad era of Nazism and the men who incarnate it. On October 1st, 1946, verdicts were issued. All appeals for clemency were rejected. Several very heavy sentences were rendered, including 12 death penalties. Several inmates committed suicide before the trial ended. On October 16th, convicts were promptly hanged. The Nuremberg trials would have one memorable victim. An innocent man would be convicted, hanged, before the mistake was uncovered some years later. This is the case of the officer Alfred 16th October 1946 in Nuremberg. It wasn't until March 2nd, 1953, almost 7 years after his execution, that the Munich court will declare him innocent. Too late. He'd already been hanged in the rush to close the chapter on Nazism. Why would those who have found it useful to establish a tribunal at Nuremberg, Germany, to prosecute leaders of a system of violence and discrimination as Nazism, cheer on in South Africa, which did not do the same to end apartheid? Isn't this the default double standard whenever it comes to applying the basic laws to enforce the rights of black people? How does it have anything to do with black people? It's two entirely different countries. What? It's two entirely different things.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, with the white nationalists in Africa, they knew that they couldn't technically win the battle, so they knew that they can't become the majority again in a system of democracy. Whereas in Germany, there was a fear that the Third Reich could rise again.
So, in France, the purification. For General de Gaulle, encouraged and supported by the Americans and the British, anyone who was complicit in the German occupation did not deserve to live. There was no debate that these disreputable people should be allowed to pollute the new history by their deviant complicity with criminals from the previous regime. Thus France, once the war was over, undertook one of the cruelest purges in the history of mankind. According to one French daily, Le Figaro, on April 6, 1946, 1 million French who held any sympathies with the wartime occupier were arrested and imprisoned, i.e. 1/10 of the workforce, the newspaper said. In just 2 years, more than 100,000 of these prisoners would be executed and their properties confiscated. In a special issue of the magazine Defense of the West, a study released in 1951 on the subject of the purges said the following: if we factor in people who were affected under the Professional Purification Initiative, who lost their livelihood either under pressure from unions or by various causes relating to the enforcement of the process, the number of French who lost... could you scroll down a little bit more?
Okay.
The number of French who lost their status or their livelihood from purification has far exceeded 1 million people. How many people were executed under purification? To find out, we must look back to February 1945, when the French Interior Minister under the government of de Gaulle, the socialist Jean Cliquier, presented Colonel de Wavrin with prefix reports on which it was clearly stated that between June 1944 to February 1945, some 105,000 French citizens who were executed under orders of General de Gaulle for complicity with the enemy during the war. You know, why won't France do that with all the Muslims these days?
Because that war is still happening.
That war's already lost. They've already bent over.
Mm.
Same with Germany.
They banned the burkini.
And Angela Merkel and they ignore the fact that most of these immigrants are to use terms from the SJ community, able-bodied men.
Dude, you know what's funny though?
Mm.
This guy would agree with us on that. I saw several of his posts shitting at all the German quote-unquote citizens and voters, and he used it as a point to show how idiotic democracy is. Because he said that he had an interview with different citizens of Germany and France, and then he said that they weren't even aware of what danger they are imposing on their culture.
Yeah.
And so he's like, having all these people vote is just a waste of time.
Yeah. But, like, most of the people coming into Europe from the Muslim states are not from Syria. They're from places like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Iran, Qatar. These places where they're not as affected by war, and they're just
defense of evil. Iraq is like it's got ISIS balls deep in their mouth.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm at. I know where I am. And it wasn't until 1951 that the National Reconciliation Act, known as the Mignot Law of 5th January 1951, was passed by de Gaulle's lieutenants, pardoning all crimes committed until January 1st, 1946. This Reconciliation Commission was nothing other than the self-amnesty of those who had assumed power, in case anyone should harbor ideas of bringing them to justice in turn. The purification spared no one. Even the military were heavily affected. It is estimated that among the 30,000 men in arms, 20,000 were victims of purification. Even the press had been purified. Any who had written any positive word about the Nazi occupation were immediately arrested. Most publishing houses were simply closed.
Hi, Matt.
Azania. During the apartheid era, there were marching orders among African heads of state. Never use the word South Africa when discussing the country where Mandela was held in prison. Use Azania instead, since both outlawed anti-apartheid parties had wanted it so. The ANC and the PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress, which would later be renamed Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, in objection to the fact that a country would call itself Southern Europe, South Asia, or South America. They told us that the day blacks would win the struggle, the country would be renamed Azania, and the result was that all official speeches delivered in Kinshasa, Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, and Yaoundé.
What's that? Dar es Salaam?
After Dar es Salaam,
Where is it?
It's middle of the. It says Kinshasa, Nairobi, Dar es Salaam, and
Yaoundé.
Yaoundé.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I
And
mean.
Yaoundé. The heads of state systematically used the name Azania when referring to South Africa to mark their commitment to the fight championed by the PAC and the ANC. Until one day, Nelson Mandela was released from prison and with no explanation to anyone forgot the name Azania and instead, like the Boers, adopted the name South Africa. Much to the dismay of all Africans who had held up the torch on instructions from the ANC and the other anti-apartheid party, the Pan-African Congress. He did not even give a press conference to explain this sudden change. Across the African continent, South Africa is the only country where the central bank is in private hands. In other words, blacks who struggled for years to claim their rights over their resources, and now they've been served with news that Mandela has worked wonders. In fact, the people have sunk into one of the worst economic and racial dictatorships in Africa. In fact, they are the same racists of bygone years, who still print the currency used by all South Africans. Mandela didn't see fit to rectify this South African anomaly. Amon, I think there's a echo coming through your mic.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Let me mute myself for a while.
Okay. Mistakenly, you would think that this is a South African problem, confined within South Africa. Unfortunately, South Africa is the laboratory in which trials are conducted for most of what will subsequently be applied across sub-Saharan... I'm sure that's supposed to be sub-Saharan Africa. We'll see how in the following lines. Public and private in South Africa. Predators in Africa. In Cameroon, there are two private mobile network operators, the South African operator MTN and the French operator Orange. I've seen people tell me they prefer MTN because it's an African company. I struggle to explain that MTN and Orange have exactly the same shareholders who expect the same profits from the Cameroon market. And these shareholders, whether resident in South Africa or Europe, are all from the same group, a European population. In the financial services sector, for example, both public and private actors adopt predatory methods to get their hands on the financial sector across Africa. The strategy begins with the bailout fund with some banks that were desperate for cash, and then, since they are unable to repay, the South African company would take a stake in the large bank. Often, even when the bank can repay its debts, the South African company was less interested in its money. What interested the South Africans was access to the African company's shareholder capital. This is certainly what happened to Ecobank's Togo subsidiary created in 1985, with its presence in 32 African countries, which can boast to the most reputable bank on the continent. In 2011, this bank, which is listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, or is that Johannesburg? That's Johannesburg. Blech. Johannesburg Stock Exchange, crossed paths with an institution that Africans would hardly recognize, one which is the worst predator on the continent. It is the Public Investment Corporation. It is a public institution managed directly by the South African government. It is a sovereign wealth fund created in 1911 to manage the pension funds of retired South African public servants. And who are these retirees? 95% are, of course, white people who served the odious apartheid regime. I think that's supposed to mean booty as in treasure, but this is going to sound weird. Her booty is huge by African standards, able to bring any public or private company to heel. It's definitely a pirate joke because keel haul, you know. It has cash worth.
Maybe they were doing that on purpose.
Yeah. It has cash worth 1 trillion South African rand, 1,000 billion being a trillion. That is to say, about $100 billion. In April 2012, the PIC became the largest shareholder in Ecobank by acquiring 20% of its capital. But that's still not majority shareholds. They'd need 51% to be majority shareholds.
Yep.
Which means that there's still a check and balance there, so he's already wrong there. Oh.
Doesn't matter. Facts don't matter, bro.
My girlfriend says that her booty is also relatively large. When in September 2013, Ecobank published its third quarter results for the year worth $250 million in profits, up to 65% compared to the previous year. Or up by 65% compared to the previous year. It is the South African institution Nedbank, which leapt to claim its share of the cake and decided against the advice of Ecobank to convert its loan into $285 million in shares. That is to say, laying its hand on 20% of Ecobank's capital. But who is Nedbank? It is simply the South African subsidiary of the British insurer Old Mutual. Ultimately, this is how the UK, with the South African government under Jacob Zuma, lay their hands on the first African bank, proving how the South Africa created under Mandela became the launchpad of ultra-liberalism to conquer the entire African continent. What? How does that what? How does
Can
that
you
prove?
read that again?
Proving how the South Africa created under Mandela became the launchpad of ultra-liberalism to conquer the entire African continent.
I'm just...
What?
So,
But what?
Matt, remember, like, how Gaddafi was communist as fuck? And
Yeah.
how, West Africa is, like, perpetuating genocide against gay people, like, literal genocide. And the pastor responsible for it is being convicted of war crimes? Pretty goddamn ultra-liberal, huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, what he means by liberal is liberal economics or capitalism. Because
Hang on.
we-
I just-
Brooke, don't get tangled up in that.
I just,
Nope.
I can't.
Brooke,
it's
hang on.
liberalism
Okay,
versus
good girl.
Marxism in terms of economics, I guess.
I thought being left economically was communism. So liberalism would be communism, not capitalism. Capitalism is definitely a more conservative economic platform.
But I think they view liberals as less, I would say, less invested in their interests than the way they are, because individualism is part of liberal ideas.
Classic liberal, yeah. Classically liberal ideas are very individualistic.
And I think that's what he's trying to mean. That's what I assume at least.
In Ghana, in 1999, the South African bank Standard Bank, which began its assault on Africa by getting its hands quite easily on 93% of Union Mortgage Bank, later renamed Stanbic Bank Ghana. In 2012, South Africa's First Rand bought into the Merchant Bank Ghana with only 750 million rand, or approximately 75 million US dollars. And the more Ghanaian firms were swallowed by British and South African firms, the more media lies were sold to Ghana being a model country. Mocking black poverty is legal in South Africa. Well, mocking anything should be legal, first of all, because mocking is not harassment. Mocking is not
Which is not something necessary in the SJW world.
Yes, I understand, but mocking is not harassment. Mocking is an exercise of free speech. As I mentioned,
So
as I mentioned the other day, the best way to explain the mechanisms of free speech that I have ever heard is, you have a right to be offended, and I have a right to offend. Neither of us has the right to stop each other from doing those things. You know, that's the best way I've seen free expression put.
yeah, I agree with that.
Yep. South Africa is the only country in the world where European robbers, because of the farce which led to the impunity of so-called reconciliation, allows himself to flaunt the poverty of his victims, to make fun of extreme black poverty, as the apartheid system validated by Mandela is maintained until today. Yes, the apartheid is totally maintained in South Africa. It's totally maintained in apartheid still exists in South Africa today. Everybody, the French guy told you so. It must be true. Must be.
Dude,
Yeah.
but this guy is very influential. It scares me because the EFF is kind of gaining grounds in South Africa right now.
Which one?
EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters,
Okay.
and it has got 15% of the vote for the first time.
Oh my gosh. But, Yeah, those poor disenfranchised black South Africans who 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 s- who staged a riot that locked white students in away in their classrooms.
Or those poor disenfranchised black South Africans who killed Boer farmers for no reason. That
I
happened
think
too.
here's
That a
the
lot.
funny thing about affirmative action, though. You know what? When they kind of give the affirmative action bias, and then get they made being black kind of like a privilege in terms of getting land, and then they made black people get more land. Guess what happened?
What happened?
The blacks who got the land sold it to the whites. I was like reading the news last weekend. I was laughing the whole time, and that's why one of the reasons Mandela was against "quote unquote" affirmative action was like he said that he thinks that the future of South Africa should not have affirmative action because majority of South Africans are blacks, and it could easily lead to tyranny by blacks against whites, and he didn't want tyranny to exist in either way.
He
Can you
didn't
hear me,
want
guys?
it-
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want it to exist either way.
Yeah, he wanted to have no tyranny at all on anyone. He wanted every individual to live by their own right, have their own rights, and not be oppressed.
Yeah.
And so his complaint against affirmative action would be like, he would say something, for example, along the lines of, well, if we have affirmative action, we're going to have like schools that will have like 99% black students,
Yep.
and it would almost stop the whites from getting access to education.
Not only that, it would just enforce segregation in reverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Right there where you're highlighting, actually.
What's that?
It is, in any case, what is offered by the Boer company.
Wow, it ticks me down.
We're right there. Yeah. It is, in any case, what is offered by the Boer company Buxwestrade, owners of Emoya Hotel and Spa, South Africa, offering a chance to its wealthy clientele to experience misery, a short stay into the pits of human misery. They've even coined a rather exotic name for the initiative: Shantytown Misery Tourism. This is the This is the advertisement that Buxwestrade has on his pamphlet. Corrugated iron shacks, oil lamps, radios, batteries, outhouses. You will discover the joys of living in a slum without the noise, unsanitary condition, and crime. That's not even the joys of living in a slum, then. The trappings, the iron shacks and everything, those are the setting of the slum, but the slum is very much an attitude and an atmosphere. Without the noise, unsanitary conditions, or crime, it's not a slum. It's just you're setting up a it's like you're setting up a stage for a play, basically. That's what that is. So this guy saying that it's making fun of misery, yeah, sure it is. That's how comedy works. Comedy is used to explore the darker parts of human nature in a safer fashion, in a fashion that doesn't immediately shock everybody's psyche and chase them into hiding. Comedy is how we explore distasteful things tentatively, and so this guy has no sense of humor either. Now you can experience life in a cabin in the secure environment of a private reserve. This is the only slum in the world equipped with underflooring heating and a wireless internet connection. Our cabins are completely safe and suitable for children. Underfloor heating and Wi-Fi. If that's a slum, I want to live there. Underfloor heating and Wi-Fi in a slum. Oh my god. This is it's a joke. It's a joke, and it's meant to be tongue in cheek, and this guy takes it serious. Wow. Okay.
It's the African version
I
of
just-
SJWs. I mean, here's the funny thing though.
You're telling me.
This guy is quite rich and well educated, and he still complains more than the average poor African. If you go to the poor African and tell him this crazy shit, he'll he'll be like, "Where are you coming from, a man?" or something like that,
Yeah. This. Hold on, you scrolled past the little last bit of that section. Up a little bit more. This cynicism defies explanation. I'd like to bet on the future of a peaceful South Africa, but with such provocations, I fear that even the most patient of poor South Africans won't bear this for long. This project has shocked the world, even in the United States of America, where the commentator Stephen Colbert described it simply as, at best, insensitive, and at worst, it is poverty porn.
Poverty porn.
Oh, Colbert, you libcuck.
That was a nice one.
He's a libcuck. Colbert is a libcuck. So is John Oliver.
Man. I mean, so
Alright.
what's wrong with poverty porn, man? What's wrong with that?
Nothing. People get off on it. People get off on it. People can pay money for whatever they want. That's called the free market.
Yep, I'm just going to tweet this, man. This is the best line ever. It's the
Yeah.
best line I've ever heard.
Yeah. In Australia, here's how the newspaper news of November 20th, 2013 wrote. Luxury shantytown Emoya estate called Poverty Porn, in South Africa subtitle, a resort that allows rich people to live in shantytowns like poor Africans while enjoying 5-star comforts, has been labeled Poverty Porn. In France, the Metro newspaper of the same day, November 20th, 2013, put it this way. In South Africa, a fake slum for rich people seeking thrills. Subtitle, in South Africa, Emoya Hotel and Spa offers a rather special experience. A few days in the shoes of a poor African, but with running water, electricity, and Wi-Fi. There are limits to precarious lifestyle. Except in South Africa, the authorities have not deemed it necessary to ban it. Damn! We're in a mode of national reconciliation, and some may accuse me of inciting black people to revolt. And as Voltaire wrote in Candide, everything goes better in the best possible country in the world, South Africa. But to what point? Oh, we lost Sean.
He'll be back.
Sanctifying Mandela in order to humiliate other African presidents. There is a well-defined strategy afoot to the use of Mandela's image to humiliate the less docile African leaders. The French Catholic daily La Croix, on the day after Mandela's death, gave us a preview. In its December 7th, 2013 edition, through its star journalist Laurent Laché, unveiled the future strategy. He took advantage of the Defense Summit in Paris to ask 4 African journalists what they think of the news about Mandela's death. And rather than comment on his accomplishments or the man's life, all 4 unanimously unleashed charges against the same leaders they had accompanied to Paris for the summit. The instrumentalization of Mandela has just begun, and unless we're all taken for idiots, how can journalists claim he gave his microphone to 3 African journalists to talk about the death of someone, and all 3 would rather inveigh? I think it's supposed to be inveigle. Hold on. I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever seen inveigh used in that particular pattern. Oh, no. Inveigh is the proper one. And all 3 would rather inveigh against sitting African heads of state, all of them. This seemed rather suspect. There are some of its daily reports. Crocodile tears. This subheading includes statements attributed to the Guinean journalist Lansing Camara, president of the International Union of African Journalists in Paris. These are crocodile tears. They salute the memory of resistance, and they do the opposite at home. They cling to power while Mandela served only 1 term. They privatize power with their family. They foster inter-ethnic strife to cling to power, while Mandela kept his family away from power, and he never stoked tribes against each other. How can Paul Biya, Sassou... I'm right after Paul Biya.
Sassou Nguesso.
Nguesso? Sassou Nguesso. Idriss Déby.
Nguesso.
Yeah. Okay.
So Idris Deby,
Blaise Compaore. Salute without betraying the memory of this great man. They should start by emulating Mandela, taking themselves out of the equation and making room for change in the democratic process. A vast masquerade. When I read this title, I quickly imagined Westerners were orchestrating a charade over the death of Mandela. Nope, the masquerade are African leaders. Read these comments attributed to Freddie Mulongo, the Democratic Republic of Congo's special envoy to the Paris summit for the radio Kinshasa called International Alarm FM. The tributes by African heads of state, with rare exceptions, are a gross masquerade and incredible hypocrisy. Some came to power by force of arms, like Blaise Compaore. Others cheated at elections and tinkered with constitutions.
I mean, just see the irony here, though. He's complaining about democracy, and now he's complaining about these leaders not being elected. What do you want, at this point?
Yeah. Mandela never...
Do you want democracy, or do you want authoritarianism?
Yeah, do you want democracy or dictators? Mandela never did that. And his work on dialogue, the creation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Many heads of state have been inspired without ever giving him serious consideration. In my country, the DRC, for example. And about the relationship with journalists? How many journalists did Mandela imprison? None! I'm stunned by the circus surrounding a larger-than-life man who has just left us. Above political considerations, Ms. Ahmed
Houmy Mikidache.
Ahmed Houmy Mikidache?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Ahmed Houmy Mikidache is a Comorian journalist and Paris correspondent of the Comorian weekly The Inquisitor. It is natural that they honor him, but it would be nice if others followed his example in other areas. We lack a Mandela to fight for education, health, and the environment in Africa. Does the fact of living in Paris prevent African journalists from breaking with the French public media campaign led by RFI in France 24 against non-compliant African presidents? Are they afraid of not having their residency papers renewed, or is it just journalistic mediocrity? True freedom is economic. My post-TRC South African misadventure. Oh, and now he's plugging his autobiography. No, really, he is.
Yeah, technically, yeah, he is. Right now, he's
talking about his...
So, like, you could say his philosophy.
Yeah, he's talking about his book, In Fuga Slab Tenebre.
Yeah.
Fleeing Darkness.
I'll read his book just for the fun of it.
Yeah. This story can be read on page 202 of my autobiographical book In Fuga Slab Tenebre, Fleeing Darkness, published 2007 in Einaudi in Italy, or by Einaudi in Italy. I speak about my South African misadventure, which led me to conclude that Mandela had been wrong on all counts, because there's no independence without financial autonomy. There is no liberating people's chains of slavery without the economic resources enabling them to be effective and not creating a nightmare for people who have nothing else in their lives but submission.
I'm sorry, I don't see your invisible chains.
Yeah. It all happened in 1997. A few months after the verdict from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of February 28, 1997, which was supposed to usher in a more peaceful day across the country, my Italian company's mission was providing turnkey construction solutions. The enthusiasm of the release and the arrival of Nelson Mandela to power pushed me to try to develop my business on South African soil. Contacts were made with a food production company located in one of the industrial areas of Johannesburg. For several months, I have to bring out the heavy artillery to convince the company to favor my solution over those of my British, German, Danish, and American competitors. I offered the cheapest price with an after-sales service guarantee by the most skilled engineers prepared to intervene in South Africa in short order. The order includes a line of several machines. For months, discussions were held to deliver samples of South African products to be tested and identifying the perfect technical solutions. I was called up several times by customs officials at the Turin International Airport because they did not understand what these powders addressed to me from South Africa were. In doubt, and before the umpteenth laboratory analysis by customs to ensure they were not banned substances, I had to provide explanations under oath that these powders were not drugs. Until the day everything was technically validated, and I had to go to South Africa to sign the final contract. I received the first cold shower at the consulate in Milan because of my Cameroonian passport. required to transfer a large sum to the bank account of the South African consulate. This amount would be refunded after my return to ensure I would not stay there permanently. My disappointment was that I quickly changed my passport to another where it was not written that I could not travel to South Africa in respect to the boycott established by African countries. Italians who had not boycotted apartheid could travel to South Africa without a visa, not me or Cameroonians who had participated in the boycott. Nevertheless, I was about to sign one of the biggest contracts of my life. For the 12-hour flight from Turin to Johannesburg via Paris, I bought a first-class ticket. Thanks to my frequent trips, my miles allowed me to upgrade, but it was the first time I was paying out of my pocket for such a long distance. Arriving in Johannesburg Sunday, as agreed, the hotel sent the shuttle to pick me up Monday morning, quite happy, I informed my client by phone, who wanted to send me a driver, that I arrived in South African Oil and had rented a car and driver for my stay, and had arrived at any time at the factory. After about 45 minutes with the driver, we entered the Johannesburg Industrial Zone, and at the entrance to the factory, there was a security guard who asked whom we were visiting. I called out their name. The guard picked up the phone and spoke to someone in Afrikaans. Discussions dragged on. Several people succeeded each other at the other end of the line, asking explanations from the guard. They were indeed expecting someone, a person from Italy, a Dr. Jean-Paul Pugala, who could not be me, or at least for them, could not be black. After the umpteenth detail to my interlocutors, an ethnic Zulu driver informed me, the guard is telling them that you're really black as tar. And that's the problem. The guard repeated for the umpteenth time to the umpteenth caller on the other side of the phone that Pugala before him was neither French nor Belgian nor Swiss, just black as tar. And after an hour of this monstrous circuit, the verdict came down. I was declared persona non grata within the concession of company property, and I was asked to go back to the hotel and return to Italy without further explanation. We were in the so-called Rainbow Nation where whites and blacks had become partners, but I did not have the right skin color to be there to talk about the economy, to talk about industry, to sample the cake of South African El Dorado. My return trip was undoubtedly the longest journey of my life. LL, the unanswered question I spent asking myself? I don't even know what that's supposed to be.
So I think he was asking himself why.
Oh yeah.
Why there was quote unquote liberation and there was no economic.
I think what it's supposed to be saying is my return trip was undoubtedly the longest journey of my life, and I spent that time asking myself the unanswered questions. You know.
Probably.
Previously, while I was a student, I was beaten by young Italians who shouted, "Monkey, go back to your forest." Despite deep wounds all over my body, the Perugia police refused to take my complaint, classifying my case as that of simple alcoholic rage, and the hospital Perugia refused to hospitalize me, claiming that my status as an African student gave me valid medical coverage only for transporting my body back to my country. I have no other choice but to go home and quietly wait for the pain to subside and fade away. In my fourth year of university, my economic policy teacher, during an oral exam, asked me a question which I had trouble answering, addressed me in front of all my Italian classmates that I was the stupidest student he had ever met throughout his long career as a university professor, because according to him, Africans had probably Africans had a melon instead of the brain. Scared by so many misunderstandings and disrespect, I could not contain my tears. In the Air France flight which took me from Johannesburg to Paris, no one insulted me, no one hit me. But the pain I felt deep within me was 10 times more horrible than those blows by right-wing Italian activists or insults from my Italian teacher. This pain was even more unbearable because of the hypocrisy surrounding the release of Nelson Mandela, and where suddenly all the racists from yesteryear suddenly seemed to have discovered the virtues of living together. The most credulous thing about this fable was Nelson Mandela himself. What he did not realize was that yesterday's racists agreed to play the game as long as it deprived them of nothing, and especially as long as they were convinced that blacks would not approach their reserved area, the economy, and they do not dare to claim rights to their slice of South Africa's wealth. Even in the Rainbow Nation, the only place where national cohesion is played out is inside the wallet. While there remains a majority of citizens excluded from sharing in South Africa's wealth, one does not need to be an economist or a wizard to predict that sooner or later it will collapse. The empty stadiums in Soweto and Orlando, jeers against President Zuma at the official ceremony for the funeral of Mandela, they show that people are disillusioned and realize that they've been cheated by politicians in the pay of the status quo, and that ultimately the so-called democracy has only served to validate names which the system had already carefully pre-selected from a casting mold, which gives no consideration towards competence, but prizes simplicity and the degree of submissiveness of its candidates. Projection much?
Scroll down.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that this guy is projecting a bunch of his own worldview.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's probably using the Marxist lens.
Mm-hmm.
So using that, he's inserting his own bias into the dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The book.
What lessons for Africa? It pleases me to conclude as we began with my hero. The Garden of Remembrance, the cemetery where Stephen Bantu Biko is buried in King Williamstown. A sentence that was recorded, which was uttered by Biko himself. It is better to die for an idea that will survive rather than to live for an idea that will eventually die. Dying for an idea is a bad idea all the time, unless that idea is...
Not dying for an idea.
No, I'm trying... See, dying for an idea is bad. Dying for an ideal can be good. And there's a subtle difference. Like, I'd die for the ideal that is freedom of expression. If I had to face down actual institutional death, somebody said, you spoke bad, naughty words and committed thought crimes, so you have to die, I would go, then kill me. But in doing so, you are only proving you are afraid of what I have to say. You silence me because you cannot refute me.
I see your point.
Yeah. Whereas dying for an idea, ideas and ideals are two subtle but very different things.
I mean, even in the context of Steve Biko's idea, I think if he lived with Nelson, if he lived long enough with Nelson, he would probably change his idea.
Yes, people change their minds. This is human nature.
Once as Nelson came to the position of power, and then he realized the importance of democracy, that's when most of his ideas began moving towards capitalism.
Yeah, well, I mean, even China, primarily communist country, has had to move towards capitalism and have done so pretty rapidly because they can't survive otherwise. They don't have the resources to do so.
Yep.
Okay. Biko died for an idea of social justice, resource sharing, and social harmony as a guarantor of long-term peace, and sooner or later, if South Africa wants true peace, and not this time bomb called social injustice, it is obliged to implement it. The contrary is an idea by which Mandela lived, an idea that will eventually die, lying to the people, economic discrimination against them, and social marginalization of almost all his people in a still covertly oppressive status quo, with chains of slavery screwed tightly around the feet and hands of African people in South Africa, which had made him, Mandela, their standard bearer. Okay, first of all, they weren't even slaves during apartheid. They were second-class citizens for sure, but they weren't outright slaves. Secondly, they weren't second-class citizens anymore for the most part. I mean, there's a difference between second-class citizen under the law, which they weren't anymore, and a second-class citizen in society, which attitudes do not change instantaneously. It's not possible. Attitudes are still changing in the US. They've been changing since the end of the Civil War. Constantly changing. You know, the civil rights movements in the 60s, that was where a major paradigm shift in attitudes took place. But those attitudes need time to evolve. People are very intractable. People are very set in their ideas. People don't like change. Change is, I don't know what it is, but people don't like change. They don't like to change their worldviews. They don't like to change what's familiar. Familiarity breeds complacency. That's the best way I can put it. Complacency.
It makes you compliant with the worldview.
Yep. In an article on the Zimbabwean newspaper The Herald, December 10th, 2013, entitled, "Was Mandela an African Hero?" the thinker Zimbabwean Ranga Matere,
Zimbabwean Ranga Matere.
Matere argues that Mandela's libertarian record definitively excludes him from the list of African heroes like Kwame Nkrumah,
Just
Seko.
read this part.
Yeah, I just read that.
And highlights. It's like he's
Yeah, I
being a
don't.
libertarian and removes him from being a hero.
Yeah, how does valuing individual liberties and non-aggression exclude you from being a hero? I don't get it. Seko Toure, Abdel Nasser, Kenneth Kaunda, Julius Nyerere, yeah, Robert Mugabe, yeah, Joshua Nkomo, Patrice Lumumba, Samora Machel, Steve Biko, and Chris Hani, because having supported and accompanied ultra-liberalism provides evidence that he is at the service of the oppressor against his own people, unlike all these African heroes. Nasser Hani. To prove it, he took to witness the words of Mandela himself at his own defense at trial in 1964, which is expected to end in a death sentence. Mandela said he was ready to die for his people to achieve equal opportunity. Mandela had stopped being an African hero after his release from prison by forgetting the principle of equality of opportunity, for which he what how did he forget? How did he forget equality of opportunity? What? He made them all equal under the law. They could all own land. They could all get jobs and everything else. No, they had equality of what? You are stating the exact opposite of what occurred and saying that that's truth. That's a lie.
He's projecting.
I hate to say this because I say this all the time to myself. 1984 was a warning, not an instruction manual. Why are you reading Orwell and taking it as gospel? What? Because that's what they're doing. They're redefining words. It's just like the mini-true in the novel 1984. They're redefining words and getting rid of all ideas that run contrary.
I can't hear you.
Hello?
I can't hear you.
Okay. I was just vacillating. It's all good. I was just ranting to myself at this point about how they're doing exactly what the Ministry of Truth in the novel 1984 does.
I should read that novel because people giving me reference to that book.
It's a 1984 by George Orwell, and this is getting off topic for a little while, is a very chilling prospect, especially when you look at it and then view today's world. Because a lot of things...
Was it the one... Wait, let me try to remember. Was it the one where he kills a lion or something? He kills an elephant or something like that?
No.
Okay.
No,
I had read that book, and that was also interesting to me because it was like showing confirmed.
It's the one where at the end of the book, the main character is made to say that there are 5 lights, even though there are 4. There are 4 lights lit up. And he says, there are 4, what do you want me to say? There are 4. And if the party says there are 5, there are 5. And they torture him until he toes the line. They brainwash him.
That is quite interesting.
Yeah, it's not a good ending. That book does not have a good ending. That book has a very bad ending. Anyway. He orchestrated a circus called Forgiveness and Reconciliation. Why has the U.S., which egged on this stupidity but still hasn't made peace with Russia or made peace with Cuba? What? Blaming the Oh, no, wait, I see why he's making the U.S. out to be the bad guy in this, because at that time Russia and Cuba were communist.
Yep, and they are kind of supportive of the black struggle at the time.
Yeah. Why does Israel continue to hunt German criminals involved in the Holocaust to their deaths all over the planet? Are they crazy to continue their hunt more than 60 years after the end of World War II? Why did all European countries applaud Mandela for this reconciliation but do not release all the murderers they have in their prisons to lead a good initiative by apologizing to the families of the victims, clearing all their crimes, and becoming brothers and sisters the next day? Well, first of all, there are actually probably less murderous prisoners in the U.S. prisons than there were people fighting each other while South Africa had its own internal civil war. So,
Yeah.
And secondly, murderers are different than people fighting a war against each other and then being told that, well, you have to live together now, so deal with it. Murderers are kept away from the population. They don't have to live with their victims, and the victims don't have to live with them. It is not possible because human beings do not respond to this logic. As Hannah Arendt said, Arendt said, genocide, mass atrocities are paradoxically part of human normality, and it is only through thoughtful action, an admixture of repression and forgiveness, which creates breakage in the cycle of violence against this human normality of violence and crime. In South Africa, pushing forgiveness without repression was a historic mistake. Actually, was an historic mistake, thank you, that has served as the backdrop to show to the world that the black guilty naivete in their believing that they could be believing that they could close the page of slavery, turn the page of slavery, I think, without group therapy. There's an entire word missing there. Without group therapy for victims and holding no perpetrators to account. The abominations of slavery are repeated again and again under, oh, there it is, colonialism and apartheid, giving Europeans the arrogance to flood Africa with Christian sects to teach humanism and to preach morality to Africans. Upon his release from prison, Mandela did not have the courage to characterize a hero who must take head-on the oppressive system which humiliated his people. Ceding the spot of vice president to de Klerk shows that he was well aware that the entire system remained in place, controlled by the same people, without any fear of having to give account for the odious system they incarnate. The result today is paying back. The Bantustans, into which apartheid, have simply changed names and become slums, where, as during the apartheid years, it lacks everything. No electricity, no toilets, no water, but places par excellence where poverty, according to the United Nations in 2011, haunts 30% of the black South African population. That figure remained unchanged in 30 years. The former president and successor to Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, has nationalized largest electricity power company, which, according to the African Development Bank, because of its frequent power cuts, forced factories and mines to close, and was responsible for South Africa's 5% to 3% decline in the growth between 2008 and 2009. Mandela should have used his charisma to make such nationalizations a requirement to revive the country's economy on basis of rebalancing and wealth redistribution. Yes, wealth redistribution, the communist cry. Mandela did not have the courage to touch these privileges, those of a predatory class that he is hell-bent of handling back South African society. This is why I say, no, he is not my hero. Yaoundé, December 17th, 2013, Jean-Paul Pugala, ex-sugarcane cutter. What is that?
So Yaoundé is the one who interpreted it. Let's see the comments.
Yeah, Yaoundé is where it was written, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, she's meaning professor.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing this kind of information to common people. Let me read like an African now. Beyond all, celebrating and praise if Mandela action has brought greater good than bad. Documents like this help us inform decisions, guide us on the choice of our future leader. It will be good to know what is the real legacy of Madiba in order to prosperly achievement. So then the article suffers from the assumptions that Mandela. Okay, I think this comment is much more mature.
Yeah. Was to be the panacea to all of South Africa's 500-year problems. The same mindset which Obama's detractors like Cornel West have manifested in their perceived weaknesses of the first black president are evident in Pugala's analysis of Mandela. Even if Mandela had succeeded in the areas the author wanted, South Africa would still not be rid of problems and racists. Heck, the U.S. gained independence about 300 years ago and fought a civil war 150 years later, but still has not dealt with its own problems. Yes, The author is correct. Mandela has clay feet, but who doesn't? Instead of joining the chorus and attacking the monument, why not offer clear evidence of an alternative path which has been traveled by other freedom fighters? What evidence is there that the path you are suggesting could have been won? Which country has successfully pursued such an approach? Haiti, Brazil, the US, Ghana, France? Some of us are saturated with literature attacking Obama and Mandela while failing to take cognizance of the odds these men were faced with. These are not new. Not long ago, they were after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Jomo Kenyatta, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, Sankara?
Marcus Garvey.
Marcus Garvey. It says Sankara.
Nyobe.
Steve Biko, Frederick Douglass, Rudolph Douala, Manga Bell, etc. Finally, has the author applied such standards of scrutiny to his native Cameroon? Has he spoken out against the problems faced by English-speaking Cameroonians who reunited with French Cameroon? What about Cameroon nationalists who are ignored or missing from the national memory? Wow.
I think that was a fair point in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one. Neither are you my hero.
Mm-hmm.
He might have heard clay feet like all human beings. So okay, celebrate him for his views. Yeah, I like this guy. He says celebrate him for his views.
Mm-hmm.
Unintelligent analysis of the truth, filled with
sensationalism,
I guess.
Yeah, sensational
and unnecessary targeting a man who lived an
exemplary life.
Exemplary life, despite his personal shortcomings. This learned professor could use his time to engage in meaningful scholarship rather than chasing shadows. Despicable, I guess.
Yeah.
Nonsense. I like this one.
Yeah.
I think even his audience felt like this is too crazy for us.
Yeah. Well, sensationalism, as I'm sure you know, but I don't know about the rest of the audience might know, is the act of. It's basically a big appeal to emotion argument, which is what this guy was doing throughout his entire article.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to, yeah.
Do you have anything we could cover?
Not personally. I mean, there's stuff that's been covered. Probably, I don't know if you've done it in your podcasts, but there's stuff that's been covered by the bigger YouTubers like Sargon and Chris Raygun and Undoomed. I mean, there's the whole doxing thing that seems to have started some sort of interpersonal drama between people like AIU and a bunch of others.
I don't think AIU is a bad guy, but I think that you should. I think that you should kind of accept his fault in a way, and like move on with it. And I take the same position that Harmful Opinions did when this all started. I don't support doxing, but neither do I think that anonymity must be enforced in all situations, no matter what. It's all about context and degrees of severity. Should a person who has said something stupid or shitty online have their personal information shown? No. Someone who says you're fucking stupid, I hate you, should not have their personal information disseminated on the internet. The only time I could tolerate doxing would be in a death threat situation.
Yeah, and then you don't give it to everybody else. You just find out their stuff and give it to the cops.
Yeah.
You don't expose it to everybody else. You find out their real name, their address. You report them to the police in their situation, providing the evidence you have. That's it.
On the the outspoken realist, I guess. He's very good at making guilt by association. I guess TJ kind of showed his hypocrisy because he made a guilt by association on Jacqueline Glenn when she associated with Onion.
Uh-huh.
Kind kind of crying when they give him guilt by association.
I think that guilt by association is another stupid thing. Just because let's say that I talked with, like, here's a big one. I've Bering was on a podcast with Devin, who is atheism is unstoppable.
Yeah.
He was on a podcast with them, him and I guess one of his friends, and they were talking about stuff. Bering has come to the point where he says, I'm neutral. I'm not stepping in here because I don't have a horse in this fight. I have a horse in this race. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm mixing up my idioms, but he and Undoomed step back and say, we're not getting embroiled in this stupid bullshit. And I guess another skeptic YouTuber, Devil's Advocate, is like, you're a fucking liar, Bering. You and Undoomed are shit. And they all come into it, and it's weird because just because he talks with the people doesn't mean he agrees with their views. If talking with people meant you agreed with their views, then every anti-SJW agrees with SJWs, because we all try to talk with the SJWs.
Ishmael Brown.
By that logic, we all agree with SJWs, which simply isn't true. Otherwise, we wouldn't be anti-SJW. And even then, another thing, we're not monolithic. We won't all have the same views of everything, which is good. Just, diversity of views is a very good thing. Having a diversity of ideas and accepting that you don't agree with another person's ideas, but you're not going to try and punch them because of it, is the mark of intellectual maturity.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There are people who attacked only Devin based on his actions. I'm not against those people. I'm against the ones who attack everyone who associates with him.
Yeah, I understand the people that are criticizing Devin. That they have that right, and I understand why they're taking that position. I'm not going to get in on it because, frankly, I don't know enough about the situation. I just know that, allegedly Devin doxed some people, and we're all very angry about that.
Evidence from both sides, and it seemed like Devin really did it. And if I was Devin, what I would do is I would say I would apologize for that. I don't think he did it with bad intent, so he could just apologize for it and go on and move on.
I'm not even going to get into the, like I said, I don't have enough information to make an assessment of either side, but the people like exactly the bystanders attacking other bystanders just simply because they associate with one side or the other, they're in the wrong. There's the people who are there's the people who are attacking Devin's friends and Devin's, the people who support Devin for no other reason than they support Devin. There are the people who are attacking people like Crouten T and Naked Ape because they're against Devin, and for no other reason than they're against Devin. It's all wrong. It's all bad. They can criticize their ideas, but don't attack them.
Yeah, that's where I am right now. It's like, I think I'm kind of neutral in a sense. I kind of disagreed with Outspoken Realist in the way he attacked MSE, I guess. And he said, if you support MSE, you are a pedophile supporter.
I don't see how that could be. How do you support pedophilia by supporting a person's...
He's very good at guilt by association. If you support Jacqueline Glenn, you support the idea of being a copyright violator and a plagiarist.
How?
And if you support Devin, because she did that, and he wants to give you guilt by association.
Okay, so she did those things, but you don't have to support those actions to still support her. Her as a person. You have to be. He doesn't understand the separation of a person's actions from who they are. Again, and that's like he's basically doing the same identity politics anti-SJWs do, but with different things.
Yeah,
rather than say. Yeah, rather than saying, "Oh, if you support Jacqueline Glenn, you support white cis heteronormative patriarchy because she has standards. She follows the standard model of beauty." He's saying, "Oh, if you support Jacqueline Glenn, you support plagiarism because that's what you did. You support because she's a plagiarist." He's making it a part of her identity rather than just an action she did. And it's sure it's an action she did, and sure it's very shitty. Plagiarism is never a good thing. You should make your own. You should make your own content. I mean, in the event that you're reviewing something or the whole fair use thing, it's a bit different. There's a big margin of error there for fair use. But if you outright plagiarize something, yeah, you're being stupid. And if you get caught,
Should have given them credits, for
yeah.
sources.
Yeah, exactly. And if you get caught for it, just go, yep, I fucking did it. My bad. And admit your wrongdoing, don't do it again, and you should be fine. I just don't understand why people feel a need to be polarization. Why
to have a moral high ground?
Well, it's all part of in-group, out-group dynamics, really. You make by having a moral high ground, you have an in-group that looks superior to the other out-groups. It's all about appearances.
Yeah, you'll be like, yay, man, I'm better than you. See, I have these values. I hold these, quote unquote, good ideas.
Yeah.
Even if technically they might not be good ideas.
Yeah, they just look good. I mean, here's a big thing. We oppose social justice warriors. We oppose their methods and their rhetoric and their ideology. But the idea of social justice, the idea, still has merit. The idea that, yes, people should be treated equally under law. Yes, there shouldn't be as many social inequalities of opportunity that there are. Of course, to get rid of some of those, you have to also get rid of some of the established inequalities, such as affirmative action. But it's so much more nuanced, the actual idea of social justice. And social justice warriors are bad with nuance. They don't like nuance because nuance tears apart their worldview.
The N-word, man.
Yeah, nuance is their new N-word.
I mean, just think of the fact that the other guy tried to dismiss all the things you said.
By calling you white.
Mentioning your heritage.
Well, Ishmael tried to say, oh, well, you're both claiming something and then not claiming something. You don't even have a horse. You don't even have a right to talk about this because your heritage doesn't come from here. No, my heritage does come from the U.S. I may only be second generation, but I'm still a U.S. citizen. But the problem is that I knew that where he was going with that, which is why I headed him off. He was going to say that I was the descendants of slave owners, and thus I am at fault for what they did. Even if I were descended from slave owners, even if an ancestor way back when was a slave owner, I am not responsible for the actions of someone now long dead, for one. I am not responsible for any wrongdoing they may have done, because I wasn't alive then, and I can't do anything about it now. Time has passed.
I mean,
not to mention,
the funny thing, though. He's also not a first generation. I don't believe that he's, quote unquote, his ancestors were enslaved in America. He told me that he's from Jamaica or something like that. His parents' country of origin, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of funny that he mentions our heritage, but I actually knew that he's really not from America, but I didn't want to, really, his lineage really goes back to, I think it was somewhere in the South Americas. But I didn't want to mention it because I don't want to use his way of thinking.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. His heritage comes from some place where he was. His ancestors may not have been enslaved. That doesn't matter. He still has the right to have a view on things and to discuss them.
Yeah.
But the way he discusses things, he's like, "Do you even know how to debate?" Yes, I know how to debate. I stated a premise. I didn't state any claims of material yet. Any material claims. By saying that people should not use violence to extort or coerce the things they want, That's a statement of intent. That is a premise. That is not a material claim. A material claim would then be what I followed up with. The riots only cause strife and further hinder the things that these people claim they want.
Dude, but I think he kind of purposefully acted annoyed in order to change the subject in a way.
Oh, he definitely did. He knew he would lose the argument immediately.
I mean, at first he had said that he would download the stream. When I was talking to him on Skype, he said he would download the stream and take it to his audience. But then later he began saying, my audience has nothing to gain from this.
Yep.
Because he realized that he didn't want to show something shitty to his audience.
Well, it's not that it would be shitty. It's that he'd be on the reason he had to, the reason he had the muss and bluster, the reason he got so vehement and started talking over me is because he didn't want any evidence contrary to his viewpoint stated. And like I said earlier when I was talking to you on Facebook, that was exactly what I was afraid he was going to do. He wasn't going to allow us to get the actual facts out. And lo and behold, he acted exactly as I thought he might.
Hey, but at least
I hate to say,
you know?
Yeah. I hate to say it this way, but I feel like Cassandra before they pulled in the Trojan horse.
What I found interesting
Go ahead.
that when I went on his podcast, he kind of cut me short and he was like, "Oh, you gotta do this." He says that he wants the podcast to end, and he said it about 3 times. Whenever I say something he can't disprove, he just keeps on saying he wants the podcast to end.
Yeah.
It was on Skype.
Yeah.
At last, I was kind of recording him, and he never realized that. I sent you the ending, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I listened to it. I wish we could have had a better discussion with him. I really do. But he started getting vehement, and I felt like the only way I was going to get him to even listen to what I was saying. And he did listen to it, though he then immediately called me a fuck boy.
To the same name about 3 times.
Yeah.
He called me on the Skype once, and then once in a Facebook group, and then now here for the 3rd time.
Yep. He as soon as he starts getting confronted with ideas and statements that he can't control, because like he strawmanned my points entirely. He's like, you saying you don't care about black people? I'm like, no, I don't care what you have to say on this particular issue, because what you're saying is you condone violence. He's like, rioting isn't violence. What the fuck? Yes, it is. Are you? I mean, any definition of riot. If I go look up riot definition right now, any definition of riot mentions violence. It outright says a violent disturbance of the peace by a crowd. Take part in a violent public disturbance. Let's see, Merriam-Webster, dictionary.com, the Free Dictionary, Cambridge English, and Macmillan. We'll just pull the first 5 definitions here.
I mean, even if it's not by definition violence, but you could say that these riots specifically had violence in them.
Oh yeah, because they pulled white people out of cars simply because they were white and beat the ever-living hell out of them.
And I also love the fact that he kind of started as a pro-Black Lives Matter guy, and then he said, "I'm not Black Lives Matter" around the end.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm not Black Lives Matter. I just." And then he said, "I'm pro Black Lives Matter" at the very beginning. But
that was kind of funny.
Okay, so Merriam-Webster, simple definition of riot: a situation in which a large group of people behave in a violent and uncontrolled way. Full definition of riot: archaic, profligate behavior, debauchery, unrestrained revelry, noise, uproar, disturbance made by revelers. Public violence, tumult, or disorder. A violent public disorder, specifically a tumultuous disturbance of the public peace by 3 or more persons assembled together and acting with a common intent. Okay, so that's Merriam-Webster, and then here's dictionary.com. A noisy, violent public disorder caused by a group or crowd of persons, as by a crowd protesting another group of government policy, etc. in the streets. Legal definition: a disturbance of the public peace by three or more persons acting together in a disrupting and tumultuous manner in carrying out their private purposes. Verb: used without object, to take part in a riot or disorderly public outbreak. Verb used with object.
I mean, I also love the fact that he called us racist.
He can call me whatever names he wants. We told him to prove it at the end there, and he never did. Prove that I'm racist. Yeah, he asserted it. He made an assertion without any evidence. But yeah, every definition here, a violent disturbance of the public peace, a violent disturbance of the public peace, a violent disturbance of the public peace, a noisy and violent public gathering, a violent protest by a crowd of people. Violence is part of a riot. I also love
the fact that you say that what happened is not part of Black Lives Matter.
It says it right on their shirts. They even chanted it out loud, and then they said Black Power, and then they said Death to Whitey.
That's not Black Lives Matter. It's the KKK who say Black Power.
Yes, of course. It's obviously the KKK who say Black Power. Obviously.
Yeah. It's the KKK with black.
There was no logic, and he was attempting to outshout everybody so that.
Yeah, that's why I had to reduce his mic, the volume of his mic.
Yeah, and then Sean was like, "Hey, could you turn down Zan too, because he's all of a sudden way louder than Ishmael." And then I had to explain to Sean, "Oh, he turned him down because he was way louder than me, like way louder."
He was like almost breaking my ears.
Yeah. No, I just.
Yeah. Calm down.
And then he started all the swearing, so I just answered in kind. It's if you want to take it lowbrow, I'll go lowbrow.
I think he thinks that he's entitled to some respect, I guess, without earning it.
Respect is earned. I'll give someone simple courtesy. I will give someone simple courtesy. I'll remain calm. I'll speak with them. As soon as they try to overtalk me, I'm going to try and overtalk them because they tried to overtalk me. As soon as they interrupt me, I'm going to interrupt them because they tried to interrupt me. They showed me no respect. They showed me no reason to respect them, and so I won't. And they denied me the common courtesy I was giving them, so I'll deny it back. It's at that point they've lost the right to courtesy that I gave them. I gave them courtesy.
Yep. I think, and Sean kind of didn't like the yelling, so he had to change the subject several times.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go on feminism because early on when we went on his podcast, he said that we should have different, quote unquote, different expectations for men and women in workplace. And then I said, well, if we are to have equality, we should have equal expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And his reply to that was something along the lines of, "Oh, women have been oppressed." I was like, no. It's like, for example, in the military, I kind of hate the idea of having lower standards for women. I want them to have equal standards.
They should have equal standards, and the fact that they don't pisses me off.
And for him, he's like, no, we don't want to hold them to equal standards. I was like, okay, would you be okay with having a nurse that only studied 1 year become your nurse instead of having a 2-year, take the job of an RNA?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, that's something different. I was like, it's the same thing. If you have a principle, you should apply it all the time. And my principle would be having the best person do the job at the best way. And then he said, oh, you don't want women to take part in the army. I said, where did I say that?
You didn't.
I want women who qualify to take part.
Yeah, if they can pass the tests, they should be in. If they can't pass the tests, they should be out. Plain and simple. It goes that way for men. Men who can't pass the tests aren't accepted.
And then he changed the subject to affirmative action.
Which is stupid.
To that was, I believe in affirmative action based on individual situations. For example, if Xanatrix happens to be a poor white kid and I happen to be a rich a rich black kid, they should hold me to a higher standard when I go to college because I come from a much more good environment.
I even then I don't really think that affirmative action should apply. Uh,
I mean, I would say to your individual circumstances, I would be okay with that. But
well,
collectively, back to what I hate.
Yeah, well, individual circumstances, it's not affirmative action anymore; it's meritocracy.
For example,
If you're deciding based on someone's merits, like again using your example, if I'm a poor white kid and you're a rich black guy, and you come from a better environment, you'll show that you're not as disruptive of an element in a classroom. You'll show that you are more likely to have the work ethic needed to complete your assignments. You'll show that you're better at working with groups. Whereas me, being a poor white kid living in a bad situation, is going to show less group dynamic. I'm going to show less work ethic. The meritocracy there is that you were given due to your environment and the ability and the opportunities invested in you, you were given the tools to handle an academic environment better than I was. And it shouldn't matter about my white skin or your black skin there. It should matter that one of us can do better in that environment than the other. And that's irrelevant of any race. It could be two white kids, two black kids, Mexicans, Asians, everybody. It could be man and woman. It could be it could be really old person and younger person. It could be disabled person and not disabled person. Everything,
And then after that, he immediately went to the tangent of most blacks are under poverty. And then I told him how many percent. It's repeating the word most, and then I fact checked that statement on air, and he was like, I'm not. He was like, I'm not. Are you going to ignore at least about 30% of the population? I was like, I didn't say ignore them. I said just help the ones who need it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use the 23% of the population to justify giving it to the whole population.
Yeah.
So I guess we should go off air now.
Yeah. I think we've covered everything that we needed to.